What's poppin', y'all? It is Kyle Carbone and Eric Follman in a crew, joined also by Justin Thinger, Tyler Penny, and Jordan Charles Crimmy. This is our first rendition of The Boys of Summer Season 2 podcast. We're coming at you in 2022, joined by some of our favorite league members. Let's start at the top. Do we have any bold takes, anything that you want to get off your chest before we get to the start? We'll send it to Justin first. Anything you want to get off your chest to start us off today, Justin?
Nothing too much just yet. Just ready to get into the season. Hoping I don't get any more crazy trades in my inbox from your dad. Just kidding, Phil. Other than that, nothing too much.
Oh, bring in the heat early. Tyler, to you.
I'm going to go ahead and say that Phil and or Crim will have the worst pitching staff in the league.
Oh, okay. All right. Who's of the two? Who's do you like worse?
Who's do I like most?
Who's do you like worse? Who's the hideous?
Honestly, Phil's.
Grimmy, what heat you got for us?
Outside of all of you can go fuck yourself. I feel like Kyle's in for a rude awakening here, and I feel like your team's in the bottom half of the league this year. So,
oh, geez,
have fun with that.
I said it before the stream.
My leg that hurts my side.
Do I have the permission to say something about something Kyle said to me early in the offseason? It made me laugh.
Yes.
Kyle sent me a message one time. He's like, I don't know if I should put this trade through because it will make my team so good.
Oh,
hold on. Is that including the trade that me and Kyle made?
I don't know. I don't remember what it was, but I just remember hearing that. And I'm like, Kyle, I hope you get so many injuries this year again. I just hope you're in the bottom four. I don't think you're gonna be. But he's like, my team's just gonna be so good. I'm just like, okay, Kyle, I can't.
I manifested it.
I can't say that's verbatim, but it was. I'll find it. I'll try to find it for you. But
find the direct quote and bring it back to us.
All right.
All right. At the top, we are actually going to jump right into our division draft for the 2022 campaign. Justin Thinger and I, Angels in the Trout Fielder, will be alternating as your two first and second place head-to-head finishers from last year. We are going to draft our division draft our divisions for the next year to see who we want to match up against and who we think are the least or the smallest threats to our reigning championship campaigns. All right, with the first pick, it goes to me as the reigning champion. I'm going to start us off, and I'm going to go with Chad. Chad, I don't have very good high hopes for his team. He's got a lot of work to do in the auction. So Chad is going to be off the board with the first pick. Justin, we'll go to you. You have the second pick.
Well, we might have to alert him via carrier pigeon that I'm making this selection, but I will be selecting Eddie Mazer as my first pick.
Eddie
Mazer, there we go.
Is going to go to the American League or the National League. We'll have to rename these divisions. We'll see. Let's see here, Eddie. Okay, back to me. A lot of interesting choices on the board here. A lot of different directions I could go. But I feel like I have to go based on what my future power rankings are. Oh, I like it. I'm gonna have to go with Dave. Dave, I'm not a big fan of his stand, so I'm gonna take him with the third pick.
All right, with my next pick, I think I will be taking. I just had my eye on it. I will be taking. Let's go with the Beantown Boys.
Oh, I'm a little higher on Bryce's team than Justin. It sounds like a little contention there. All right, I like it. I don't want to see Bryce in my division. All right,
we have to switch some things up from the AL to the NL from last year.
Yeah. All right, with my fifth pick, I am going to go with Peter. Just because I like throwing a little shade at Peter. I like having him in my division. He'll talk shit. And just for that, his team's fresh. And,
I love Peter. Peter cracks me up sometimes. I love Peter.
Yeah. And I want to have him in my division so we can talk that shit.
Oh, I love it.
All right, next I'm going to be reuniting the greatest battery in the history of Hampshire High School and Team T-Pain. Welcome to the division.
Yes.
The disrespect. Tyler, got anything to say about that?
Hey, dude, it's his grave. He's digging it.
Oh, I like it.
All right. Next, I am going to show no faith in our newest member. I don't think he's going to hit the ground running. I think he's going to stall out, and I'm going to go with Corey as my next pick. He's got some decent players, but I think he's still got to get his feet wet and get his feet under him before he looks to contend.
New fish.
All right.
I like it. All right, with my next pick, I will be taking Crimmy's Crew.
Damn, I thought I could get it in the ground. Damn it.
Crim's got the Jays hat rocking too. Let's go.
You switched into the Jays hat.
Let's go. I love it.
Why? Thank you. I got picked so high, so I feel like this is a good.
That's
sign.
pick 10. That's not awful, right? That's pick 10.
Yeah, it's not bad. I
terrible
mean,
at all.
you're not gonna take me one, so like, that's cool.
And to interject real quick, Crim, you actually picked last year's, I remember, football ones a little bit based off who you trade better with and put them in another division. So, I mean, that's kind of interesting too.
This is true. That's why Dave was over there. He's a fucking piece of shit.
There you go. Continue, boys. Continue.
All right. Damn it. Crimmy was definitely who I was eyeing for my next pick. I thought I could get him. I thought I could wait on him. I gambled incorrectly. I'm gonna have to go with Phil. I'm gonna have to go with my father. Welcome to the division. Little father-son rivalry there. We'll expand more on what we think about Phil's team in a little bit here.
All right, with the next one, I'll be taking the Battling Swashbucklers Jays team.
Right.
Jay had a lot of value, but he traded some of that away last night. And we'll delve into that a little bit later. All right, that leaves two teams left. It leaves Eric's team and it leaves Chris's team. Chris, our reigning Roto champion from the previous year, and the co-commissioner, Eric Follman. Oh man, this is a tough one, but I guess I'm gonna have to go off my power rankings. And Eric Follman, welcome to the division.
Heck yeah.
You guys let Eric slide all the way up.
That final spot.
Battling it out in the same division this year. That'll be fun.
Ooh.
It will be.
All right, that leaves me with Chris.
Falls to Division 2. Tyler, who's the stronger division?
I mean,
that's
you
fast.
got me and Chris in that division, so I'd say
our future first and second overall players.
yeah, Justin can ride third out. That's cool.
All right, so now we're gonna go through a team by team now preview of who we thought the biggest surprises were, who we think the bad keepers were, the good values, whatever it may be. We're gonna start at the top, or actually not gonna start at the top. We're gonna start with Justin's team so he can skedaddle out of here and fuck off. Justin, why don't you talk us through some of the hard decisions you had to make when deciding on your keepers?
I think Mookie at the top was one of the hardest ones for me. I went back and forth on it. I'm a huge Mookie Betts fan, period. So anytime you have somebody that you really like on your team, it's a tough one. But the interesting part is that he's $46. He didn't perform like a $46 player last year. He kind of had that hip and knee injury that was debilitating for him towards the end of the year. So he didn't really have the greatest year from a power and run production standpoint. So I hope he can have a bounce back year. Another tough one was Marcell Ozuna. Obviously, he beat his wife last year and wasn't in the league for 2/3 of the season, so that was a tough one morally to hold on to. But the upside's there. I mean, he easily can be a 340 to 350 on base percentage guy with 30 plus homers and 85 plus RBIs. Not gonna steal a ton of bases, but the run production upside is obviously there. Another tough thing for me was getting rid of Kevin Gausman. I made that trade with you earlier in the offseason and got a couple of key pieces back just to enhance the keepers that I had on my team because I wasn't too confident with the guys that I had finishing with a lot of those seat contracts last year. So
Tyler, what do you think about the ethics of Justin's team? I mean, he's got Marcell Ozuna, who's a certified wife beater, and he's got a cheater in Alex Bregman. Do you think that's going to hurt their fantasy value?
I'm not gonna lie. I had Ozuna down as my least favorite player on his team. I kind of wanted to hear your take on Goldie, though, Kyle.
Eat the craw now.
It's a good keeper.
I will. Goldie, I slandered him all last year, and I went over this in the last pod, but I have to eat a little craw just because I never thought that he would ever be a keeper at $31. But you can't argue with this production. I don't know other first baseman is going to hit 31 home runs and steal 12 bases at the same time with a 360 on base percentage. So that power speed combo and just the run production and the solid Cardinals lineup, I think he might be worth that 31. He is getting old. He's not going to be a great value. He's not going to be able to put up like $50 production. He's not going to hit 40 home runs, steal 20 bases or anything like that. But he's still solid at 31, still a solid keeper. Eric, what are you, any surprises on any of Justin's keepers that you see here?
Nothing too much. It's, I mean, pretty much what I would have expected for it. Obviously we'll kind of dive into like what the strengths and weaknesses are in a little bit, but no, I wasn't too shocked in any of them. I think they're all pretty good values. Obviously, I think McCutchen at $1 is good. Cronenworth at $4. I really don't hate getting bets at 46. Obviously, we're going to talk also about what we expect from the draft moving forward. And I don't hate bets at 46 at all. He's still one of the top 20 players in baseball. So I think the keepers were about as expected.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Nothing that really stood out to me. No like big surprises. I don't think there was any like big surprise ads, no big surprise drops of any guys that were kept. Ozuna and Mookie were the two that I had pointed out where I was like, I don't know if they're going to pay off their value. If Mookie played like he played last year, he won't be worth $46. He really needs to kind of go back to his MVP form. Did Mookie Betts win an MVP? Or was he runner up twice? He did. Okay, he won an MVP.
And that lineup, man, I mean, you can hit anywhere in that lineup and it doesn't matter. They could hit him 8th or 7th and he would, I mean, that lineup's going to be disgusting. So
well, and the best part is he's going to be leading off. So there's a really high probability he's going to have 100+ runs.
And now a DH, so it's not like pitcher hitting behind him.
130+. I mean, he's going to be driven in a shit ton.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. And then Ozuna, I don't know what Ozuna would go for in the open market. This will be a very telling draft. It's very unpredictable what some of these guys are going to go for. I don't know if Ozuna would go for more than 24. I don't know if he would go for less than 24 if thrown back. So kind of some interesting decisions here. How in depth, Eric, do you think you want to go in on every team? You want to do strengths, weaknesses on each really quickly, or what do you want to do?
If we wanted to, I was thinking
like what we think they should target in the draft.
Yeah, that works too. Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
All right, what do you see when you see Justin's team?
Right now I'm seeing, I mean, I think he still needs pitching. I mean, you see one elite guy there in Shane Bieber. Lance Lynn, obviously, I mean, I like him a lot. He was phenomenal last year and you hope he continues that. But I mean, I don't know if you can expect that to happen every single year, given his age. At some point they fall off. We saw it to Jake Arrieta, but obviously you're keeping him at that price. Lance Lynn was awesome, but he's never been a huge fireballer. But I still think pitching, but he's got a solid start. Again, there's always going to be that answer of as long as they draft well, right? Because that's always going to be a thing that moving forward that we're going to say, as long as Justin drafts well and gets the pitchers he needs. And I think he's going to be fine because I don't hate his offense. He's got some run producers, some home runs. No one really there is projected to hit less than 15, 20 home runs. So I think his offense is solid.
Yeah, I think his offense brings like a nice floor. He's got a nice stolen base floor between Chisholm and Goldschmidt and Mookie. And I mean, he should have a nice floor, about 50, 60 stolen bases. He'll need to pick up a few in the draft. Bieber's got to stay healthy. If he continues to battle shoulder injuries, he'll get some shoulder inflation. They shut him down. Justin's season may very well be over before it even starts. And we're going to find this as a common theme. And I want you guys to keep track of this as we kind of go along. How many of these teams that we're going to bring up are we going to say need pitching? And there's not really pitching available in the auction. And I feel like that's something that we're going to identify probably somewhere anywhere between like 6 to 12 teams that we say, yeah, they probably need one more starting pitcher. They still need a little bit of pitching help. But the pitching help that's out there, we're looking at Logan Webb, Shane McClanahan, Luis Patino, guys that you just know aren't going to get 200 innings and not like guys you can build a rotation on. There's no like really rotation anchors. And even the guys that you think might throw 200 innings, like a Hyun-Jin Ryu, a Yu Darvish, or a Kyle Hendricks, there's serious concerns with either spin rates or strikeout rates or whatever it may be. So I think pitching is going to be a very interesting thing to see as it kind of gets pushed up the board, and we see kind of what people are willing to spend to get quality arms because there's not that many available. So I think that definitely pitching is going to be something that Justin will need to address. He'll need to find a few diamonds in the rough, but I know he's confident in finding a few arms and scouring the waiver wires, reading the scouting reports, and finding a few contributing arms. But I feel like he's in decent shape and has a decent outlook hoping to jump into the top 5 or make a run at the playoffs again and make some magic happen. And we saw last year, Justin, no disrespect, well, maybe a little disrespect, but Justin, your team last year had no business being in the championship, and
none. Absolutely not.
By a half a game in the championship, difference between 5.
But that's why you gotta love head to head, man. You gotta love it.
Absolutely, and that's the thing about the league is we get the best of both worlds.
I love it.
So.
All right, Eric, any last things you'd like to add?
No, I mean, we'll get obviously the power rankings. We'll talk about where we fit Justin's team overall, but keeper is no surprise.
All right, Justin, anything you'd want to add before you go?
No, I think that's it.
All right, thanks for hopping on.
All right, fellas, as usual, go fuck yourself.
Later, man.
All right, we'll head over to Crimmy's team now. Crimmy had a full squad. He's got 12 keepers. He's got a loaded offense with not many openings. Crimmy, why don't you talk us through some of your keeper decisions that you had this year?
I felt like it was pretty simple for the most part. You're keeping, 2 guys that eat up majority of your salary, so that's kind of makes things somewhat tricky. But getting back Correa made things easier for sure because I wasn't now paying Xander Bogaerts the $27 or whatever he was getting. Randall being traded helped a lot because situationally he wasn't great in Toronto, but being in Colorado was kind of became a no-brainer for $1. I'll give him a crack at what we'll see there. The big thing for me was just Torkelson too. He keeping him was happening either way, but now that he's kind of getting traction and likely going to start, that kind of made things fall into place.
Sounds like he will make the opening day roster.
Yeah, so things kind of fell into place well for me on offense. The 2 trades I made, I think, were pretty. They rounded things out. Getting Castellanos, and trading away Taiwan Walker and Eloy. Eloy obviously maybe a better value for sure, but going to Philly, Castellanos has a big a lot of upside there for sure. But yeah, it was just the offense. I know that my pitching is not great. I have 1 active pitcher right now, 2 technically, but 1 active starter. So that's going to be something I have to address. But I feel like the offense, having one side of the coin, I wanted to kind of focus on, and that kind of helped happened with the offense. So I think that things are looking decent, but obviously you still have a lot to work on too.
Tyler, if you could describe Crimmy's pitching staff in 1 word, what do you think that word would be?
There is no words.
He's speechless.
There's words. There's words. Awful, lackluster, complete shit. You can be real with me.
Well, complete shit's 2 words though.
I would say putrid was the first word that comes to mind.
That's fair.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was gonna say, Chris Sale at 6 is great if he was healthy the last couple of years. Syndergaard's coming off what did he even play last year?
I think he threw 2 innings.
No, I don't think he played at all, did he?
And you've got a kick-ass reliever. So
Oh yeah, he did. 2 innings. Wow.
Acuna, you're not getting Acuna until later in the season. And that's barring he doesn't have any holdbacks. So you're spending 49 on Acuna.
It's late April.
Yeah, well,
then I didn't see
DH at the start, and then maybe they'll kind of
right.
The Trout was just he had a funeral to attend. That's what I was looking at. But I don't like Correa. 1. Fuck. He's on Minnesota now, but fuck Correa.
Why?
Even for 11, even at that, he's a fucking cheater.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Kyle. I did not want him on my Cubs. Thank you.
But I really like Grichuk being traded to Colorado. I really like that. When I seen that, I was going to try and kick Crimmy a trade offer, but I didn't think he would take it. I don't like Nimmo. He's got a great OBP, but what else are you contributing there?
Yeah, Nimmo, he's nice for $1. Hopefully he kind of contributes a solid on base percentage. Hopefully he kicks in a few stolen bases, but you're not going to get a ton in the power and RBI there.
That's really it. Last year I kind of looked at things that were really bad for me, and OBP was one of the glaring issues that I had. So getting somebody for $1 that can kind of boost that substantially was fine with me. Obviously, Richard can kind of knock that down if he plays the way he did last year, but I'm hoping he changes things around.
Yeah, and Trout Castellanos and Nimmo will certainly aid a low on base percentage. Yeah, when I look at Crimmy's team, I kind of see a lot of question marks, and there's a lot of glaring holes. The first glaring hole is obviously the pitching staff, as we talked about. I don't expect Syndergaard to throw 200 innings. I don't expect him to throw 180 innings. I don't think they're just going to kind of let him fly and let him go 6-7 innings to start and give him kind of those innings. They probably will, and they should baby him a little bit. So I don't know what you're kind of getting out of Syndergaard. And it's not like he was like stellar. I mean, he had some seasons where he had a 4.28 ERA the last time that he was a full-time starter. Yeah, before that, he was elite and he's got nasty stuff, but we'll kind of see. The last time we saw him on a mound, he was not a quality pitcher. He was okay. He's not great. Certainly not what you expect out of him. Chris Sale, I'm not sure how long he'll be out with that injury, but I've heard anywhere he might miss up to 2 months with this rib fracture. We're hoping it's more than like a couple weeks, but that's kind of something where if it's kind of in the ribs, you can't really do a whole lot. And it's not like you can kind of rehab something like that. You just kind of have to wait for it to heal. I look at the offense, and it's obviously a star-studded offense, but he's paying for his stars. And when I look at guys like Trout and Acuna at $49 and $45 respectively, and I'm going to kind of ask you this, Eric, do you have any hesitation to Acuna being worth 49 and Trout being worth 45, given the fact that Trout does not steal bases anymore? Trout is not necessarily a top 5 guaranteed player anymore with injury risk, and the fact that Acuna is going to miss the start of the season. Do you think you have any hesitations, those guys being worth that, those high salaries?
No hesitations at all. They're worth that, especially when you see what's going to be available in the draft. I think people, it kind of sounds like people are being a little bit too, I think, cautious on certain things because these elite stars are not really going to be available in the draft. So I think if you have the money and you can still go into the draft with $80, $90, I don't know why you wouldn't keep those guys. Mike Trout being 45. If you look at projections, he's projected to have still 50-point higher OBP than Acuna, projected for more RBIs, projected for similar everything else. So, I mean, if you're telling me you can have Acuna and Trout on the same team and head into the next draft with as much money as you have, I mean, I have no hesitations at all.
As much money as he has? How much money is he projected for? Let me take a look here.
I have $86. If the whole calculations here I have now are right.
You get a whole pitching staff.
Yeah, that's fine.
But okay, so but I don't know. I mean, if he has 2 hitters to fill, right? So pretend he gets 2 $1 hitters. You're telling me he has $80 to fill 4 pitching spots. That's $20 a pitcher. I mean, we'll look at what some values have been this year. That's what I'm saying. I think people are kind of overvaluing a little bit.
You're filling 3. Acuna does not play in the first half of the season.
He's missing.
Yeah, that's a reserve draft guy.
Acuna's missing the first 3 weeks of April. That's all he's missing.
Right now.
Right. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
And we're going to hope that he stays healthy. We're going to hope that he has no setbacks. And we're going to hope that, as oftentimes happens with ACL guys, a lot of times because of all the physical therapy they do, because of all the overcompensation, what happens to the other ACL? A lot of times you suffer problems on the other side. Problems on the other side. And sometimes it's not necessarily an ACL. Sometimes it's just like he has a strained hamstring in his other leg just from the overcompensation that needs to happen. So not only do you have like those kind of remaining injury concerns, I mean, you also have the fact that oh shit, what was I gonna say? I completely lost my train of thought. Okay, I don't know. Eric, what do you think are the biggest glaring weaknesses looking at Crimmy's team here?
I think we covered it. Obviously, he's going to have to go into the draft getting pitching. And I didn't really think of this heading into the draft, which kind of struck me just a couple weeks ago was obviously you can't put reserve players on your bench in the draft, right? You have to fill out your roster. So, I mean, Crimson is kind of shoehorned into having to draft a catcher and a second baseman eligible player. So he's got to make sure he goes in and gets the ones he wants. But I think obviously he feels confident in his offense, so he can kind of settle there. But getting the right pitchers at the right price are going to be fine. I mean, again, Syndergaard is on a 1-year deal. I'm not really concerned about him warming up too much. They're going to try to use him as much as possible. They want to win a World Series in Los Angeles. So I don't really see them slowing his development too much. If anything, they'd want to run his arm into the ground, get a World Series and say, thanks for playing. So Chris Sale, we'll see what happens there. But when he did pitch last year, he was still really, really good. So I think if he plays it right, again, if he drafts well, Crimson's team's going to be one of the better ones this year. And we'll see that in the power rankings.
All right. We're 2 for 2 on 2 teams that need pitching. All
yeah.
right. let's go over to Tyler's team. And Tyler knew that he needed pitching, past tense, which caused him to swing one of the biggest trades that the league has ever seen, which paid off mightily for him, given the events that have happened. Before we get into that, Tyler, talk us through some of the keeper decisions that you had to make this year.
All right, so out of all of them, my least favorite keeper is obviously Mondesi at 23. It's kind of expensive. But if he stays healthy and I get 40, 50 stolen bases out of him, I think he's worth 23.
He can win you a league. He can lose you a league.
And the fact that it's all on stolen bases is crazy, but continue.
And well, the goal is utility. I don't think there's any third basemen to pick up, and I've been trying to trade for a third baseman, but everyone just wants stolen bases. And I gave up Tatis, obviously, which thank God. But I mean, I dropped. I like Bellinger. Can I keep him for 42? No, there's no way. Not with everyone else I have on my team. I got DeGrom for 49. I got Alonso at 29. I mean, I'm going into the draft with like 65 or what did I say earlier? 35 salary, I think. Right now, my salary fills out like 225. So I'm going in with not much, and I got to get a handful of people. The trade helped me a lot with my pitching. Casey Mize at 10. I'm not ecstatic about it, but I'm optimistic.
Like
so what you're saying
I have you picked
is
$35, Tyler.
Yeah, so take the $35. Take what you need 6 players. Take 29 of those dollars. Give him to Tatis. Bring him back again because you love him. I know that. And then take the other $6 and then figure it out.
No, I really like Luke Voigt at 3 now that he got traded to San Diego. That trade that I made last year with Kyle, like he was hounding me all year. He's like, Voigt's probably not going to play. He's not going to play. He's not going to play.
I was trying to convince you that he was, so you'd take the deal, and then he didn't play, and then you still hung on to him, and now it really paid off for you.
And now we're looking at 30 home runs and 86 RBIs and a 350 OBP at San Diego. I mean, I don't think my team's the best, but I mean, I think I got a good starting offense, a decent starting pitching staff. Like, I just got to fill a couple of holes. I mean, I feel a lot better about my team this year than I did last year.
Yeah, Tyler, I think that you made the very calculated decision in the offseason going, I don't have a pitching staff. Like literally you had Wheeler and you had not a whole lot else. And you looked at the guys that would be available and went, I can't build a contending pitching staff with the guys that are available here. And even if I had the money, I still wouldn't be like, you can't build a pitching staff around the question marks that are going to be available. The McClanahans, Patinos, the Logan Webbs, and all those guys that we're going to probably talk about here in a little bit. But like you can't really you can build an okay pitching staff, but you're going to have to pay up for it. And even with those guys that like, there's no guarantee. Logan Webb might go for $40. I mean, Chad's a guy who has like $200 to spend and he needs pitching too. There's no reason why Chad shouldn't spend $40 or $50 on a few of those top arms. So now you're kind of even going to even a tier down below. So now you're kind of filling your pitching staff with some of the other guys, some of the even lower tier guys than that. So Tyler went, well, I don't really have a path here to having a solid pitching staff. So we made the trade, the Tatis and DeGrom trade. Any rotation that starts off with DeGrom is going to be a solid rotation. Sonny Gray, who got traded, great situation for you now. Now that he's going to be pitching Minnesota out of Summers in Cincinnati. Savale, not good strikeout numbers, but for $3, you just hope he kind of helps your ERA and whip. Sean Manaea, if he does anything near what he did last year for $5, is going to be a steal. I am still not high on Casey Mize. Eric, how you feeling about Casey Mize? I know you have the biggest hard on for Casey Mize. You always have.
I mean, he's a number 1 pick in the draft. Sometimes it takes a little bit for a guy to get going, but I mean, 150 innings last year, pretty much as a rookie with a 3.7 ERA. I mean, what's really not to like about it? I mean, his strikeout numbers aren't really there. He's not really known for it. But again, in a draft where there's not much pitching, yeah. I mean, yes, Sean Manaea is phenomenal at $5, but I don't hate Mize at 10 either.
Yeah, so I mean, this is definitely a top half rotation in the league. I don't know if it's like top 3, but it's definitely like top 5, I would say, in that kind of range, where now he can kind of couple it with the upside that Mondesi has. with a guy like Pete Alonso, with the upside that Muncy has, Seager, who's a World Series MVP, Gallo, like Marte, like with Marte and Mondesi, if they stay healthy, he could lead the league in steals. Then he's got some power with guys like Luke Voigt, who could hit 40 home runs. Alonso is going to hit 40 home runs. Muncy, who had some really good years, some really high on base percentage. So I really like what Tyler's got going here. He needs to find a few diamonds in the rough and kind of fill in those holes. He doesn't really have a lot of money to do it, but I kind of like the base that he's built here.
All right.
Eric, what anything else that you like to say about Tyler's team?
I think you hit it on the head right at the end there. I think what Tyler can go in confident in the draft is he has stolen bases one, and honestly power right now. Obviously he's got to fill out his offense, but he's basically got power in a really good spot too. So he can actually go into the draft with a little bit of money and know what he needs to focus on based on what players are projected for. So
what kind
I
of
think
player do you think Tyler needs to target in the draft?
I would say probably more on base percentage guys, because what I noticed last year was that on base percentage standings it was separated by a little bit at the top. And I think having a guy like a 270 or 280 on base percentage in your lineup, I think is an absolute killer. And it's hard to have that in there.
Yeah. Mondesi,
I'm looking at
71 on base percentage last year.
That's projected.
No, that was his last year.
No, last year, but he played what? Had 100 at bats last year?
126. Looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best part about my team is the trades I made in the offseason. Obviously, the big trade with Kyle. I got a pitching staff. I think that trade with Bryce, not that I don't think there was like a huge winner or loser, but I think being able to swap out Mountcastle for a Gallo and only downgrade Pablo Lopez to Manea, which isn't even that much of a downgrade in my opinion. I think that upgrade from Mountcastle to Gallo is going to be huge. And like I said, I tried making sure I filled out most of my positions because I figured outfield is going to be like the easiest thing to pick up. So that's all I got. I feel a lot better about my team this year than last year.
Yeah, that's kind of something we're not at my team yet, but that's something that I kind of identified too, is like the positions that are easy to fill are catcher, first base, outfield, and utility. Third base, shortstop, and second base are the three that are going to be the hardest to fill, and pitcher as well. So you kind of like, if you're trying to build like the perfect team going into the auction, those are the kind of positions that you want to leave open. And Tyler's done a good job of filling those positions and leaving the positions that are easiest to fill. And it's got to love Luke Voigt as your utility man for $3 and the power that he brings. Got to love it there. All right, let's go into our first non-person on this podcast, and we'll go to Jay's team. We'll kind of go alphabetical order from here. So if you guys are listening in and want to know what the order we're going to go into, just click on this menu up here. We'll follow that order the rest of the time down. Jay's team had a very kind of interesting offseason. He's made several trades. We'll get into those a little bit later in the podcast. He is running it tight with his budget. He is not going to have very many dollars to spend. He's got a very expensive pitching staff with still some holes in it. He made some questionable trades. And where do you think it leaves Jay now, Eric? Where do you think he stands?
Like I said, we'll get into the power rankings later. I still think he's got a really solid team. He's got a lot of power there. He's got a lot of RBI potential, a lot of run scoring potential. I don't hate his offense by any means. I don't hate his pitchers by any means. I don't love the prices, but again, we've talked about it. Pitching might come at a premium. Those are super high strikeout guys, pretty good whip, pretty good ERA. So I think he's going to get his bang for his buck there, and he's got a closer. So I think the base of Jay's team is actually still really good, and it showed last year. But here's the thing. Just like last year, he's going to have to hit on his $1 players or $2-3 players in the draft, because when you're going in needing to fill 6 spots with the little amount of money he has, it's really interesting to see how the auction is going to play out. Like, does he nominate guys he doesn't want and try to get some off the table? Because with that little money, I like his team overall, I do. But again, at that point, to make your team great, you're going to have to hit on $1 to $2 players that make your team. And guess what? He did it last year, so I guess we'll see if he can do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my biggest criticism for Jay last year, was he didn't hit on his $1 players, and then at the end of the year, psych, he actually did. He knocked his $1 player out of the park. But in fairness, he traded McCutchen for Mitch Haniger. So I think we'd look at his $1 players a little bit differently if he had McCutchen here instead of Haniger. That was a trade. But he had Austin Riley, he had Polanco, and those were both steals at $1. Incredible value.
Yeah, we'll get into those trades. Oh my.
Yeah, I'm trying everything in my power to hold back, because the thing that I want to say most right now is how could you trade Austin Riley for Matt Chapman when Matt Chapman should not be kept at $14? I don't care if there's a third baseman shortage and you're not really going to find one in the auction. Under no circumstances Matt Chapman going to be worth I shouldn't say that. There's a circumstance where he's worth $14. But if you go off his year last year, I mean, where he had, what did he have last year? He had a 314 on base percentage, a 210 average, no stolen bases, 27 homers, only 72 RBIs. He's going to hit in the Blue Jays lineup, which is great, but he's obviously going to be low in the Blue Jays lineup. He's going to be 7th or 8th. So even though he had like 500 and something plate appearances last year, hitting lower in the lineup is going to kind of have a hindrance on some of his plate appearances. I mean, maybe that Blue Jays lineup is a big boost for him. Maybe he gets more RBIs, but with a 2 or with a 310 on base percentage, I just don't really think he's that great of an asset at $14. Real Muto at 14 is not great
20.
value. I don't think he's going to go for more than like 25 if he was in the auction this year, especially considering he's going to be compared to Salvador Perez, where JT Realmuto is no longer the clear-cut first overall catcher. And his pitching staff, for as expensive as it is, it's not like lights out by any means. It's great to have Garrett Cole at 44, but I'd much rather have a guy like Willie Peralta for 3, or Corbin Burns for 20 something, or whatever Peter's got him for. Yeah, you're getting Garrett Cole, you're getting the best pitcher in the game. Projected, I still think DeGrom's better, but projected Garrett Cole is probably the best pitcher because he's healthier. Giolito is fine for 36. It's decent. Probably he'd go for more this year. But it's okay value. And then Aaron Nola, he was probably one of my biggest surprises as a guy that was kept. I do think that there's some positive regression coming from Aaron Nola. But for $37, if he doesn't turn things around, I mean, last year, God, he had let's see here, 4.6 ERA. He had a 1.12 whip, which wasn't bad. He should win some more games. The strikeout numbers are decent.
Yeah.
But with that defense, that outfield that the Phillies are going to have this year, we got Nick Castellanos and Kyle Schwarber chasing fly balls out there. Odubel Herrera's in center field, which he's okay, but he's also out to start the year. So I worry about the defense that's going to be behind Aaron Nola in regards to kind of turning some of his bad luck he had last year around. So we'll kind of see. It's certainly got some high upside. We could look back at this and go, hey, Garrett Cole, Lucas Giolito, Aaron Nola are all top 10 starters, and Kenley Jansen's a top 5 closer, and go, yeah, we're a little underselling it a bit. But even if we are underselling it, it's still expensive as hell. It's not like he has these guys in kind of the tens or
very little money
values. So he's obviously leaving himself with not a lot of money to spend. Let me see what I have him projected for budget wise. I have him right now projected for $17 to spend in the auction. So do you think that Jay has any holes, though? Do you think he has any glaring weaknesses they need to address in the auction?
Again, not really, because I think I don't mind his team. Again, I think it is a solid offense. Yeah, you're maybe overpaying for a couple guys, and I think the pitching staff is solid. Again, just has to hit in the draft. And again, he's got to average with 6 picks, less than $3 a player, right? I mean, Jay can come into the draft and put an alarm on his phone until the end to basically draft his team, because he's not going to be able to outbid really anybody for the most part on many players.
Yeah. That's kind of what's crazy about it. I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that Jay has the best team right now. But the problem is that Jay has the best team, but only $17 to spend. So, there's going to be teams that are going to be able to draft closers. There's going to be the teams that are going to be able to address speed, where Jay's not going to be able to address these things in the draft. So as the draft arrives, other teams are going to pass him up by the capabilities of what they can do. I mean, Eric, you're a guy that has I think you have like $80, $90 to spend, close to 100.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris has got close to $100 to spend as well. So even though those teams may on paper look just a slight tad behind what we have here with Jay's team, they're going to be able to supplement what they have in the auction that Jay's not going to be able to do, which makes the trade last night even more of a head scratcher. But anyway, we're going to move on to the Beantown boys. Bryce coming in the second year in the league. And in regards to the dynasty, we're all on the same page. He's his second-year player, just like the rest of us, but he was our newcomer from when we had the draft from 2 years ago, where we just kind of threw all the players back and kind of restarted because of the COVID year. Bryce's team, he's got some really good values. I like his pitching staff. It's not like star-studded by any means, but he's got some really good cheap values, where if he could just kind of get an ace, or if Castillo can kind of turn around and be that ace, it's going to be in really good shape. But I do think his offense leaves a lot to be desired. It's great that he has Salvador Perez, but I don't really see what else he has outside of that. Yeah, Albies is decent. Yeah, Bogarts is decent. But I think that he really needs to kind of supplement his offense with a Tyler O'Neill type and with some other offensive pieces. And I don't know if he's going to be able to find those kind of guys for the prices that he needs to in the auction to kind of make his offense a competitive offense. What do you see when you see Bryce's team, Eric?
I agree. I think it's pretty similar to what you said. I think the pitching staff's solid all around at good prices. Lopez, Montas. You can't hate Eovaldi at $3 either. I think Castillo bounces back this year. I've always liked him as a pitcher, so I don't hate him at 29 either. Bassett, obviously, another great pitcher there. So he's going into the draft, like you said, with a good rotation.
Can I ask you something on Castillo?
What's that?
What do you think Castillo's career whip is?
Oof. Well, I'm not a huge whip guy, but I'd say 1.22. I don't know.
Let's see. His career whip. I gotta go stats. His career whip is 1.22. Hit it on the nose.
Are you serious?
Nice
oh my God.
Yeah, I don't love Castillo because early in his career, he was a much better whip guy. But if you look here, last year, his whip was 1.36. I mean, you look at a guy like Nola, who was like, yeah, his ERA was 4.1 or whatever it was, but his whip was like 1.2. So you'd think that, okay, maybe those things balance themselves out, and maybe there's going to be less guys on base. And a lot of those are like looked at. What's that one metric? What do they call it? Where it's like number of guys that scored that were on base.
Oh,
strand rate, where like Aaron Nola's strand rate was like really low, where like a bunch of guys were like scoring, where Castillo's strand rate was really high, where he was getting guys on second and third, but he wasn't allowing them to score, which means like he's going to regress a little bit. The 1.36 whip last year for Castillo is very concerning to me, because if he does anywhere near that, that means he is hurting you in whip. He's not helping you. He is actively hurting you. And with a 3.98 ERA too, that concerns me as well. I know he got off to a slow start last year, and he kind of finished solid, but he's typically a slow starter. So I do have my concerns about Castillo, but he'll probably be okay at $29.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I think his offense is missing a couple big bats, and I think obviously that's where he's gonna have to spend his money on, because he doesn't have to really focus on pitching too much. So not an awful team, but I do think he's missing a couple some superstar bats.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised. I know they had a little bit of back and forth, but neither one of them could really come to an offer. But I know Phil and Bryce had a little bit of negotiations, and they probably could have been a pretty good fit for as regards to trade partners, because I think Phil had a few more arms and a few more big bats, and Phil really could have used one or two more of these solid, cheap rotational players, maybe with an Ozzie Albies type, and really kind of made a solid trade that would help both teams. Because I know Phil's kind of loaded at the offensive side of it, and their teams are kind of inversed right now with kind of what they have, but we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. Yeah, I definitely think that, like I said, Bryce needs to address some of the offensive stuff, but maybe he's able to kind of flip one of these cheap pitchers for another offensive player and maybe supplement it in the auction as well. If he can flip a Frankie Montas for a guy that's going to hit 40 home runs and then is able to fill Frankie Montas in the draft, he might have something. He needs to get a closer or two in the draft, and looks like he'll need a few stolen bases. Not many now that he has Miles Straw, but I hate how Miles Straw just drags you down in basically 4 categories just to lift you up in stolen bases.
Oh, dang. Yeah. That dang category again, huh?
Yeah, but that's kind of the balance, and that's why I love rotos. You kind of have to balance it out. It's like kind of like wins, where it's like wins aren't always kind of correlative, and same thing with saves. Saves are kind of independent of the others, but we still kind of have saves. Any closing remarks on the Beantown boys?
No, I think we kind of covered it. Solid base, but we'll see how they spend their money.
Tyler, you got anything to add on the Beantown boys or J squads?
No, currently talking to my daughter.
All right. We'll go to my squad next. Definitely made several trades this offseason. probably made several bad trades this offseason already. We'll get into that in the trade portion. Looking at my squad here, I like what I have. As I mentioned earlier, some of the holes that I have are at some of the positions that are the deepest. I mean, I got to fill catcher, I got to fill shortstop, but I kind of like some of the shortstops that are available, some of the deeper shortstops. Third base was definitely something that I really needed to fill going into the keeper lock. It's something that as you guys all know, I tried to get all of your third basemen and hounded you about them. So
Yeah.
Like I'm glad I was able to fill third base because
You're welcome.
Thank you, Eric. The third base crop from
I saved you all from any more messages. I finally just said accept.
Yes,
I'm just
there
kidding.
you go. You have Eric to thank. Well, Eric was hoarding all the third base and you got freaking 4 of them.
Sorry.
Outfielders, Nelson Cruz at the DH. I like where my offense stands. I need speed. It's a glaring weakness. I don't know if I'm just going to punt speed or what I want to do with it or try and get creative about how I find it. Definitely a weakness, but I love the fact that I'm going into the auction not needing any starting pitching. Knowing the amount of starting pitchers that are out there is kind of small. The amount of quality starting pitchers out there is even smaller. Having a set rotation already of 6 guys is definitely something that I'm glad I have. The loss of Will Smith, the Kenley Jansen trade really hurt, just because having Will Smith as a closer for a contender for 5 was something that was, I thought, incredible value. It's why I made the trade with Justin when I sent away Iglesias and got back Will Smith. So to basically have that trade blow up in my face on top of the Tatis trade is not something that I can look back at some of my off-season moves and think highly of. But I'm still pretty confident where I'm at. I like the guys that I have. I'm expecting to contend this year as always. Eric, what do you see when you look at my squad? You got some heat for me?
No, not really. I think you made good points. I think your rotation is very solid, obviously, and you're not spending too much on it. I love the Urquidy Valdez combo for $2 in Houston there. They've put up good numbers. Now, hopefully they can actually stay in the rotation this year throughout a whole season, because if they're not, what do you do there? So you hope that stays your rotation for the long term. Like I said, we'll get into what keeper decisions you made later and kind of my opinion on that. But I overall, you got 6 solid hitters. You can't really look at any of them and say that's awful. I think Teoscar at $14 is a little arguable there. Obviously the run production and the home runs and the RBIs were there last year, but and in that lineup
last year, wasn't he?
What's that?
He's like a top 15 player last year.
Yeah, we'll see if that continues. Yeah.
Sun shines on a dog's ass every now and then.
Yeah, I mean,
I think everyone would take 32 homers, 116 RBIs, 12 stolen bases, and a 346 on base percentage.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, I appreciate the feedback. Tyler, you got any heat for me? You think I'm gonna honestly fuck this year? So why? How can you justify that?
Give it to him, Tyler.
Let's hear it.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Talk shit to Kyle on his team.
You said I'm not going to finish in the top 6. How can you justify? Explain yourself.
Like Kyle said, I think we're going to see some regression from Hernandez. I just don't think he's going to keep up. I mean, for 14, obviously, I would have kept him.
Right, yeah.
I don't think he's going to have the year he had last year. Nelson Cruz is going to crumble at his first at bat. The dude's like 80 years old. I don't even know why you kept him. 40 home runs. I just don't see 40 home runs this year. I don't see those numbers this year.
I mean, gee, he only hit like 25 homers pretty much every year of his career.
Yeah. What is he, like 45 now?
Maybe 42.
Tom Brady's
not a fan.
Yeah.
I really like his pitching staff. I tried getting Sandy Alcantara from Kyle all year, and he just wouldn't budge on him. That's the only guy he wouldn't budge on. Obviously, he got Wheeler from me, which is his most expensive pitcher, which won't even be starting opening day. I mean, I think obviously Kyle has one of the best pitching staffs, just the fact that he doesn't have to worry about, like you said, picking up a quality starter. He can spend X amount of dollars on a good closer, get some closers. He can get a couple of them if you really want to. He only has to fill shortstop.
Because I only have one open roster spot, so I can only draft one pitcher. That's the kind of nice thing about the roster thing the rule we have.
You don't really have any, like, again, you have shortstop to fill, which because Tatis fell through, but because Tatis fell through, that's an extra 46 that you got to keep. I don't know who you kept over Tatis, but
Cruz.
None of them cost 46. So, okay, so if it was Cruz, then you save $35 right there. That's $35 you can spend on a shortstop. I don't know if there's any in there right now that are worth 35, but
yeah.
I don't know. He's got an okay team. I don't see him sitting at the top of the rankings like he did all last year, but we'll see.
Yeah, I love my rotation. I love where it's at. I think that between Gausman, Morton, Wheeler, and Alcantara, those are all like four, like probably top 20 pitchers, maybe top 25. I don't think there's another team that has 4 top 25 pitchers. And then Eric, as you said, to supplement them with Valdez and Urquidy, which, yeah, they're not great. Like they're going to be okay, but for $1, they're solid for $1. I like kind of the balance that I have there. To have a full rotation for like under $50 or whatever I have it there to kind of be able to spend the money I need to on the offensive side of things to address stolen bases and address some of those kind of positions, kind of like where I'm at and address closers there. I do expect to contend. I do expect to win the league as always. Nothing will stop me. And the last thing I'll say is like, this is probably like my biggest fault, which is like, I get like anxious when at the thought of throwing back like solid keepers, which is why I hounded Eric about our trades. It's why I like hound some of you guys, where it's like, I don't want to have to throw back Wilson Contreras for 9. I don't want to have to throw back Nelson Cruz for 11, when it's just like, I feel like there's like, you look at teams that only kept like 8 or 9 or 10 guys. It was like, well, why wouldn't you just give something so you could have these keepers that should be kept on some teams, but not on others. Sure. I was hoping that Eric, as we'll get to your team here in a sec, but if we'd have made that trade a week ago, maybe you could have found a 2-for-1 where you wouldn't have had to drop Justin Turner for $1. Ooh, we'll get into that in a little bit.
I mean, if I'd known he was dropping him, I would have made him an offer for something.
But that's the thing, is that you would have had to finagle it, because what are you going to offer? Because he couldn't take on a guy, because then he would have just had to drop the guy.
And that's the thing with the keeping the 12. It's where I was at all season. I loved my 12 guys. So the whole like everyone was offering 2-for-1s. Everyone wanted to offer 2-for-1s because you only wanted to get one keeper back, and that's kind of how the mantra was all off season.
Which is like, you look at a team like, I gotta throw some shade at Eddie, where it was like, well, like Eddie only kept like 9 guys, like 3 of those are hot garbage, like Jeff McNeil for 10. And it was like, Eddie would be the perfect candidate to do like a 3-for-1 or 4-for-1 even, where we could send guys like, where I could have sent Nelson Cruz and Contreras and some of these guys that would be keepers on his roster, or even like team like Phil, where he had, guys like Garver and Hendricks and Ryu and
Hendricks is not a keeper at 15. Let's just leave it right there.
Yeah, to Chad he is. But even
Hendricks is not a keeper at 15.
They wouldn't have to drop some of those guys.
Let's get to Chad's team. We could probably run through this one real quick. Chad's team is not good. It's going to struggle. It's going to be
Chad,
bad.
First overall pick in the division draft.
Yeah, I mean it's just not going to be good. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting year for Chad this year. I'll eat my words if it ends up being good. Obviously, there's a lot of young players. He's going to go into the draft with a lot of money. But you have to fill 6 spots. So I don't know if there's like, you're going to overpay on players, and I mean that's fine. And if your team becomes competitive for it,
8.
yeah, that's fine. And if you can pay for it, great. But the players on your team, I don't see being awesome, great contributors either. So, I mean, I can run through Chad's team really fast. It is not going to be good this year.
Let's see. Chad will have $181 to spend in the auction, and it will not matter. There is no path for Chad to get back to relevancy. And I'm saying it right now, like, sorry, Chad, like you could get the 4 best players in the auction. You could get Cedric Mullins, Tyler O'Neill, Shane McClanahan, or pick Logan Webb, or pick whoever.
Your team's still not good.
And it won't matter. Adding McClanahan and Logan Webb to this rotation does not make it a top 6 rotation. And adding Tyler O'Neill and Cedric Mullins to this offense does not make it a top 6 offense. Like, there's just no path for it to be for the relevancy. Like, I guess you need Wander Franco to go 30-30. You need Joe Adell to go 30-20, and you need Kalenic to go 30-20. And then maybe you have something, but like the odds of all those things happening are so low that I just don't really see it happening. I like Dalton Varsho. I sent Chad an offer. He probably laughed at it and probably threw it in my face, but I sent him a Tatis offer for some of the guys that he has, just because it was like, well, like at least Tatis, you're getting like a ceiling player.
He didn't take, what you do? Can you tell me, did you offer Tatis for Varsho, like straight up?
No, I offered Tatis for Varsho, Franco, and Reyes. Which,
of course you did. Okay.
Well, yeah, like if I'm going to give Tatis,
of course, Kyle. Why should I have expected Kyle did something reasonable in a trade offer? Okay, continue. My bad.
Well, I'm not going to pay $6 for a catcher that I couldn't keep anyway. Like,
God.
You know, I would honestly, I would have just offered Franco to you. I don't like Wander Franco, to be honest. I would have offered him in the Devers deal.
I mean, not like Wander Franco
because what's his ceiling? I mean, I guess he was a high draft pick, but like Wander Franco,
but he had 280
30 home runs. He's not going to steal 20 bases. So what is he?
He had 280 at bats last year. It's half a season's of at bats. So he's 100 runs, probably 15 to 20 home runs as he grows, 80, 85 RBIs and a 350 on base percentage for $8.
Okay, but you were treating Wander Franco like he's going to be like some like top 20, top 30 like fantasy asset. He's so great.
He could be.
He's a great player, but in regards to fantasy, he stole 2 bases in half a season. So if he's going to be a 14 homer, 2 stolen base guy, he's irrelevant. If he doesn't offer power or speed, then that's what is he really going to offer? Like, yeah, I expect him to take a step forward. He won't hit 14 homers, just doubling the 7. He'll probably hit like 22, maybe, even if he takes a step forward.
With 100 runs and a 350 OBP.
5 bases, then he'll be okay.
Yeah.
You can't find a guy in the auction for $5 that's going to score 100 runs and have a 350 on base percentage.
Have fun.
I mean, those are pretty easy stats to fill. I mean, Brandon Nimmo is going to do that. And Brandon Nimmo's a $1 play. We're not clamoring for Brandon Nimmo saying he's an incredible value at $2. Brandon Nimmo will probably be more productive than Wander Franco this year.
I'm saying Nimmo's a great value at $1. Heck yeah.
Okay, who do you think is going to have a better season this year? Who's going to finish higher in fantasy, Brandon Nimmo or Wander Franco?
Oh, Wander Franco, yeah.
I think it's Brandon Nimmo.
Okay, and the difference of $5 if they're both good players is what?
Difference of $8 or difference of $7 because Wander's $8.
Oh, $7. My bad. But if they're both 350, 360 OBP, 20 home run, 100 run scoring guys at that price, what isn't there not to like?
Well, like, isn't JD Davis going to put up numbers that Wander Franco's predictive, or isn't JD Davis going to score 90 runs?
Yeah, I like JD Davis at that price too. Heck yeah.
Well, it's just like, I just don't like, I understand. Like, Wander Franco is a good pro. He's a solid prospect. He's great in the field. Like, he's got high prospects. He's going to be a great organizational guy. But in regards to like as a fantasy asset, I just think he's like a little overblown with some of these guys. Same thing with like, and then this is kind of the thing about Chad's team is like, would you even keep Adele and Kalenic for $8 given what they've actually done in the majors? What are your thoughts on what you've seen from Adele and Kalenic early on, Eric?
Oh, probably not. I mean, obviously they've struggled historically, but at this point he's got to ride with it. I mean, what other choice do you have? I think you could argue the same with Rogers. He's been a top prospect in baseball for a very long time. Finally got some playing time last year. Wasn't awful. 19 home runs, 84 RBIs. But again, I don't think you can. You guys got to go back and look at some of those OBPs last year. I don't think you can get away with starting many 320, 330 OBP guys anymore because like that OBP at the top of the standings last year was so close that it was like you could swing like 3-4 spots in a day. I mean, it was just nuts.
I held that most of the year, just so we know.
Yeah.
Who led the league in on base percentage?
I don't remember, but unless someone's doing something really special.
The person who led on base percentage had 2 thumbs, and it was this guy.
Yeah, there. And I just think it's one of those things where unless your dude's specializing in something, stolen bases, they're hitting 40 home runs, maybe or a combination of those things, like an Ozzie Albies is projected for like a 325 OBP, but he steals 20 bases, hits 20 home runs, scores 100 runs. So overall, you could say he's worth that. But there's not many guys out there, even like a Javier Baez, for example. If Javier Baez is not hitting 30 home runs and 90 RBIs, if he's hitting 18 home runs and 75 RBIs, you can't start him with a 300 OBP. You just can't.
Do you guys see the screen right now? The thing that says, congratulations, you're a league champion.
I do see that.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that you guys could see my screen. It had nothing to do with what was actually on the screen. Okay, now let's look at what's actually on the screen. We'll look at the season stats here and we'll pull up the on-base percentage. Stat totals, on-base percentage. Yep. Let's see, 348, 345, 345, 342, 341, 341, 338, 337, 335, 334.
And look at the bottom.
332, 330, 328, 324.
So if you're starting the 324 is the lowest. So if you're starting dudes in your lineup that are around the 320 mark, that is hindering your team unless they're doing something good. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Can't argue with that. That on-base percentage could be a difference maker. And I know it's something that Justin stressed last year. After 2 years ago, he was last on base percentage with guys like Matt Olson in his bad year and Gary Sanchez and some of those guys that brought down his on-base percentage. And he felt like he was in prison and just couldn't really get out of the hole that he had dug himself in on-base percentage. So it's something that he emphasized and something that he likes. So yeah, I mean, on-base percentage is decent, but oh god, Joe Adell's predicted for 283 on-base percentage. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh man, 212 2 years ago, 295 last year. Yeah, not good.
So
yeah, I don't
take this as some inspiration, and your team's garbage, and have fun with it.
Yeah, there you go. A little kick in the ass. So like the thing about it is yeah, Chad is going to need to take some swings on some high upside guys. But yeah, it's really tough to see the path to relevancy here. But for Chad, Chad punted last year, paid his $100, punted last year. Is Chad just going to pay another $100 and punt again this year? And the thing about it is some of the guys he has on his roster now, they're going to be $5 more than they are now next year. So even if he goes all in on prospects again this year and kind of punts for next year, Roger's going to be an $8 player. Varsho is going to be an $11 player. You want an $11 catcher, Dalton Varsho? Adell's going to be a $13 player. He's not going to be worth $13 unless he seriously turns things around. So Hendricks isn't going to be a $20 player. He's not a $15 player this year. So he doesn't really have a whole lot to build off of. So he's going to need to make some drastic moves and do something. I don't know what that answer is. I don't know if he's just going to donate his $100 this year and say I'm building for next year early on, or if he thinks that he can kind of turn things around at the draft. I mean, he controls the draft. I mean, whoever he wants, he can have. Whoever he wants to bid people up on, whoever he really wants, Chad just needs to pick the 4 or 5 guys that he wants, and he just needs to go get them. Yep. So, I mean, he controls it that way, but I don't think it's going to get him anywhere.
And that's why I can't wait to get to this Tatis conversation when we get there.
Before we go, I just want to say something. I'd like to apologize to Phil and Krim because I completely overlooked this team because every time I look at it, it gives me anxiety. This might be the worst pitching staff in the league. John Means, I mean, you're looking at a projected 4.4 ERA, a 1.2 whip.
Defense back.
And then what is that? Is Hendricks your ace?
Yep.
Because Eflin is even for $1. I'm not keeping Eflin.
Right.
He might
what are you getting 140 innings out of him? I mean, that's projections. He might throw 160, but there's not one person on that pitching staff that I would have kept, even with the pitching staff that I have.
I like Means, hashtag John Means business. He put up some decent numbers last year. He kind of fell off at the end, but a 3.62 ERA and a 1.03 whip. I mean, that's incredible. That's really helping your whip and helping your ERA. He had 134 strikeouts and 146 innings, so just under a strikeout an inning. Plus, they moved the fences back at Camden Yards, so that's only going to help him not give up less home runs. So I like Means for 9, but certainly don't like Hendricks for 10 or for 15 when you know he's not going to strike anybody out. Eflin is fine for 1. He's not in the Valdez and Urquidy range for $1. Some of the other dollar pitchers that we've seen, but yeah, it's not great. Another guy's pitching for the Phillies who is going to have to hopefully his players can catch fly balls.
I mean, you said it yourself, 325 was the lowest, or 324 was the lowest OBP for the whole league last year. He has 2 guys projected for higher than that. 2 guys. I mean, that's insane. That's bad.
Yeah, not good. All right, let's move on to, we already did Krim's crew. So we'll do our newcomer with the team name, hashtag dethrone the commish. Myself, he's coming.
I like it.
I got a target on my back, an arrow that I got to pull out there. He's made a few moves this offseason. He made some questionable keeper decisions, though. Ooh. Some I'm not a big fan of. Eric, what do you think of some of the keeper decisions that Corey made?
Don't really hate any of them. I think you could argue Lindor could have been thrown back and maybe got at a cheaper price. Again, that's another guy that struggled last year, but can turn it around. I don't really hate any of the keeper moves. I think he actually goes in with a pretty strong rotation. I think Urias, quality pitcher. Jordan Montgomery, I think, will be very solid at that price. We'll see what happens with McCullers. He's projected to return in May, which is kind of the sketchy thing. And then obviously Max Fried at $22 is a pretty solid one there as well. And Hader, I don't like spending, I've said this before, I don't like spending that much money on a closer, but if you're going to, it's that one because he strikes out like 100 guys and has an amazing whip. So I don't, again, I don't really hate any of his moves. Sixto Sanchez is going to be out for a few months as well. You could argue maybe that one. So he's going to have to fill those pitching holes. But I don't hate his offense. I think Rosarena, Lowe, Abreu, Mancada is a pretty solid core.
Yeah, it's okay. But it's pricey and it's not great for the price that it is.
It is pricey.
I feel like Corey made a conjecture, and his conjecture was that I don't have a great path to relevancy, especially given the offensive guys in the auction, knowing that, yeah, you can go get a Cedric Mullins or a Tyler O'Neill, but you're going to have to pay $40, $50 for them likely. And just for one guy, that's going to be so much, it's not going to have that big of an impact. So he's like, I got to get some major league talent on my roster. So he traded away Jazz Chisholm, who was a $2 player, for Jose Abreu, $29, and Francisco Lindor, $36, hoping that Jose Abreu can drive another 120 guys, and that Lindor can kind of go back to who he was 3 years ago, and kind of rediscover who we all thought that Lindor was going to be. And if that happens, he's going to have a solid lineup, but he kind of needs those things to happen just for them to pay that high salary that those two guys are. The questionable decisions that I thought that he made were, I don't know how you justify keeping Sixto Sanchez at 6. I don't think he's going to pitch at all this year. So you're going to keep him on your roster all year this year for 6, so he can be an $11 player next year when you have no idea the type of major league pitcher that he's actually going to be. He's got how many career innings? 39 career innings. With a 1.2 whip and a 3.46 ERA. So I don't know how you justify that. And also justify Lance McCullers, who's going to miss the first month or two of the season, for 15. So you're going to roster 2 hurt pitchers. I don't like that at all. Jordan Montgomery's okay. I don't like him for 6, really. I'd like him more for 1.
Oh, you're just going to be upset when McCullers takes one of your Houston starting rotation spots, and you're going to have to make a move.
Potentially. Yeah, I don't like it. Fried is solid for 22. I like him. Urias is probably the best pitching value in the entire league. I've tried to get Urias several times from Corey. What do you think about the guys that he dropped, Eric? Because some of the guys that he dropped were Ramon Laureano for 6, and he dropped Ryan McMahon from the Rockies, who he had for 5. You don't think that McMahon for 5 or Laureano for 6 would have been a better fit for his team than some of the guys he kept?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I don't have the roster he had before me, but yeah, I mean, if you could have cut those guys over Sixto Sanchez, definitely a Laureano over that case. Yeah. If you're talking about needing hitting, I mean, not that he's no more known for his glove, but I mean, he put solid numbers together last year, so I definitely would have done that.
20 stolen bases in like the first month and a half last year.
Yeah, I definitely would have done that for sure.
He had like double the amount of stolen bases that anybody else had in the league over like the first month or two. I don't expect him to kind of get back to that, but I mean, it's certainly a possible ceiling for him.
And that's the thing he's got to go into with the pitching injuries is he's got to go into that draft knowing he can only get one pitcher.
Yeah.
And then he's still going to he's basically got to make one of his reserve guys be a guy that's going to play right away as well, because he's going to have to fill that in for Sanchez and McCullers.
Now, Corey, if you're listening to this, due to Peter, we did change the rules. So if you decide that you do want to throw back McCullers, or you want to throw back Sixto Sanchez, you will get that money back. The only thing is you can't go back and add Laureano, or you can't go back and add McMahon. So you'd be going into the draft with 10 keepers instead of 12 if you want to throw those 2 guys back. But if you're confident you cut them for a reason, you like them,
I'd keep McCullers at 15 still. I mean, if it's May, I'm not too concerned about that, but we'll see.
He's always had injury history though.
Yeah, he has.
Even when he comes back, he's going to be healthy the rest of the year.
He has.
You like his offense, I think, a little bit better than I do. I think he's still got a few holes, but I like how he kind of traded for some major league talent.
Yep.
All right. We'll move on to our next team, which is you, the co-commissioner, Eroc's Dynasty Squad. He's made a couple moves this offseason, and he made, I think, the biggest drop of anybody that we saw drop at Justin Turner for $1. Do you want me to start, Eric, or do you want to take it?
You can take it. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So I like the moves that you made and some of the trades that you made, and I think that this is a top two roster. Obviously, I didn't want to pick you in the division until I absolutely had to. I had to choose between you and Chris at the end. Chose Chris. I think his team's just got slightly more upside. He's got some good cheap pitching, and he's got the Toronto guys that just rake. I like this offense. I like this pitching staff. Eric's pitching staff is really the only pitching staff, and Chris's, that really worry me for being the top rotation in the league. I think my pitching staff is deeper than Eric's. But I mean, it's hard to argue when you start your rotation with Robbie Ray, Brandon Woodruff, and maybe Severino can get back to kind of being a near ace. I mean, Robbie Ray and Brandon Woodruff are very well may be better than anyone I have in my rotation. Wheeler's going to be close, but we'll see. So, I mean, starting with those two, then you have Severino. If he can get back to being what he shown he could be for $1, an incredible value. Berrios, you kind of know what he is at this point. For 17, he's decent, but he's kind of just what you need. He's just a guy that is going to throw 190, 200 innings. He's going to have solid ratios. He's going to strike out around 200, and everybody would like to have a guy like Jose Berrios on the roster. $17, he's not going to light the world on fire. He's not going to win Cy Young, but you don't really need him to be. You just need him to supplement some of the guys that you have and some of the risky guys you have, like Robbie Ray or Severino, where maybe there's some regression there, some injury risk. Stroman is a question mark for 17. And gotta love Diaz for 10 in regards to the pitching staff. Offense, got a glut of third baseman, which is the hardest position to fill this year. And you got 4 of them. You traded one of them. Now you got 2, actually, because you released one of them. I like the Marcus Semien trade for you because you're able to shed some salary, especially now that you swapped in Contreras for Real Mutos. You're going to have more money in the auction to kind of address whatever needs you think you have. Maybe it's speed, maybe it's whatever else. So I think you're in one of the best positions in the league. And do you want me to talk about some of the question marks now, or do you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So Eric and I had a little bit of an argument. He wanted me to bring the fire. And the reason is that Eric was very unsure about making some of the deals that we had because he didn't want to drop someone. And so we kind of was able to talk him into it by putting Semien on the table. He couldn't resist. It was going to be Ketel Marte, but with Semien, it kind of got him to pull the trigger. and I had put in my list that I think that the 2 players, the 2 overpays, were the guy that I traded him, Wilson Contreras, and the guy that Kermie traded him for Stroman. I don't think that those guys are overpays, but here's the thing. I would probably rather have Justin Turner for 1 than Wilson Contreras for 9. I also don't love the value. I don't love the value for Stroman at 17, just because Stroman is a heavily ground ball pitcher. He's going to be pitching in Chicago, where we know, well, he's a ground ball pitcher, but also the wind can blow out on those Wrigley afternoons. But unless the Cubs infield is solid. I know we have Anderson Simmons. I don't know if he's going to be the everyday guy. He's solid. If you got Patrick Wisdom over there at third, you got Madrigal or Horner at second. You got
that's a good defense.
Schwindel at first.
Yeah, that's a pretty good defense.
I mean, Patrick Wisdom a plus defender at third.
I would say Madrigal and Horner up the middle is pretty good. If Hayward actually is playing center field, Suzuki's got a good arm and right. I don't hate Frazier in left. I think it's
Happ is going to be center.
Even still, I don't think Happ's awful at center either. I think Cubs fans are going to be pretty pleasantly surprised with the defense, at least, I would say, over past years. I think the Cubs defense kind of was slack in the last few years with Bryant and Baez and guys like that. Rizzo was still great, but Bryant's obviously can play everywhere, so I shouldn't say that. But I think the defense is going to be fine.
Which, hey, Marcus Stroman, he sat out 2020. Last year, he had solid numbers, but I do think his projections are going to be a little closer to what we can expect over what he did last year. I don't know if he's going to have a 1.1 whip. I don't think he's going to have a 3.0 ERA. I think it's going to be closer to 1.2, 1.25 whip, and then maybe more like a 3.4, 3.5 ERA, which is solid. I think that's just the perfect guy to round out Eric's rotation. I think his 1 through 5 is solid, and he doesn't need Stroman to be his 3. He needs Stroman to be his 5. So if Stroman does go 1.2 whip and 3.5 ERA, his strikeouts won't be solid, but Robbie Ray is going to strike out a crap ton of guys. Yeah. So it kind of balances it out there. It's solid. I just don't know for 17. I don't love the value, but I think it's fine. All right, Eric, I've talked long enough. Go on, wax poetically about how good your team is.
The thing I like about my team is I feel like right now I'm going in with a very, very solid 12 where I can make I could basically, if I wanted to, I could go into the draft and pay big on like 2 guys and basically round my team off with like $1 to $2 players. I feel like if I wanted to, I could pretty much average $12, $13 a player.
Your draft
Also,
budget is $82.
right. So I could also average $12 to $13 a player. And again, when you see what some guys went for last year, obviously it's going to be different because the pool's less. But I mean, you see guys like a Simeon and like a Matt Olson that went for $13 and $17 last year. So I can go into the couple different strategies of I'm going to spend $25, $30 on a player and just round out my offense. Or I can really go for that depth perspective and get a lot of quality $12, $13 players. So I really like my 12 going in. I think I have a good balance. Like you said, I really don't have to worry about my pitching at all. And I think I have home runs. I don't have a single guy projected or that had less than 20 last year. All my OBPs are 340, 350 plus. And I have a few guys that can steal 10, 15 bases. I'd like one more that can maybe get 20 plus, but I really don't want to have to rely on that. So, and Chris Bryant going to Colorado, Chris Bryant's a good bat. If he plays 145, 150 games in Colorado with that big of a field, with how he runs, Chris Bryant, if the Colorado Rockies are competitive, is no joke an MVP candidate in the National League. Again, he is.
Tyler, is Chris Bryant an MVP candidate?
I'll put him like top 6.
Thank you.
Ooh,
Okay, I'll take
man.
that. I'll take that.
Like
Man.
I'll put him at like a 5 or a 6. Like you said, if he hits the way he hit,
And he can run.
yeah, he's got some speed. He's not stealing 20
No.
bases, but
Good base runner.
he runs the ball out hard. I think he's like a genuine like hard player. Like he runs out his hits, unless it's a shitty fly ball, then he's got a bad attitude. But like he's running out his ground balls. I like Eric's team. I traded Stroman last year. I got like a Savali, I think, in return, which was like 3, which I saw them as kind of the same player. So I don't mind Stroman at 17. I like to argue with you that Wisdom is not a great third baseman because I think Wisdom is a great third baseman. He's gonna be
Defensively or just overall?
He's gonna be solid. I mean, Eric, like you said, Eric's got a good team. He can kind of decide, hey, do I want to throw Chris Bryant at third base and just fill out some outfield? Do I want to try to pick up a third baseman? Like he's got options.
Kyle used to make fun of me for that position depth, but now, or like the variation of positions, but now, like I didn't really think about it, but heading into the draft, like a Crimson's team, like we talked about earlier, is kind of crunched with only being able to take those players. And I was kind of able to, right before the draft, to go, okay, I know second base is weak. I'm putting Taylor at second. I know
you can take whatever value you see in the draft because you can slot any of these guys pretty much anywhere with Chris Taylor,
right,
Ryan Simeon. If you want a third baseman, get a third base. If you want a shortstop, second base. You can do whatever you want, whatever you see the value is.
And to talk about the Justin Turner thing, I could argue that I probably could have kept him over Contreras, but obviously making that trade, it would have been dumb if I didn't. But I also look at it as I really, really wanted to round out that rotation with one more guy, and I also did shed salary from Devers to Marcus Simeon. And I like Chris Taylor at $4 more than Turner at 8 or Turner at 1 because you're getting pretty much the exact same production last year. If you look at their numbers, almost identical. And Chris Taylor is going to get you some stolen bases and he's going to get the runs. And honestly, this year with Justin Turner turning 38, Chris Taylor can hit 9th in that lineup. He might be hitting 9th in that lineup. But again, that Dodgers lineup, Chris Taylor, again, could be an all-star this year because where he's hitting in that lineup.
It just means that Mookie Betts and Trey Turner are hitting behind him.
Yes, exactly.
I think Taylor could score well over 100 runs this year being at the bottom of that lineup.
And that's why I liked him over Turner. So I really weighed the Taylor-Turner decision. And I'm like, you know what? Turner, if you look at this stage in his career, he's about a 340 OBP, 20 home runs, 80 RBIs. It's not like I let go of a $25 player. I think arguably, yes, Turner might go for 10 to 15 in the draft. Maybe, I don't know, but I felt more comfortable giving up him than Chris Taylor. Cause I think Chris Taylor, especially with that position variety, is going to be a stud this year.
I disagree that Chris Taylor will score 100 runs. I think he'll be solid. He'll probably score between 80, 90, somewhere around there. It's just the fact that when you hit ninth, you basically get one less at bat than the guys that hit second, third, and fourth. So it's really, he's not going to have 600 at bats. If he stays healthy all year, if batting ninth, you really only get like 510, 520. There's a study on it where you can look it up where it says like how many average at bats you get from every slot, where it's like, it's significant. If you hit eighth, seventh, eighth, ninth, you actually lose a significant number of at bats, which he'll still steal base. He'll still hit home runs. But when it comes to RBIs and runs, it kind of tears those down. But in a lineup that looks like that, maybe it won't have a difference.
I was gonna say, how do you figure that for a lineup like
if there's one lineup to hit ninth, then
where it's literally you got Bellinger batting like sixth or seventh, dude.
If it turns over one more time than everybody else, then yes, it won't matter. If they get through their lineup 5 times a game, then yes, it won't matter. But if it's more like 4 times a game, then it takes kind of the averages. So maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's because the lineup's so good it actually won't matter. But I'm just telling you what I've heard, where it's like then where you're sliding the lineup has a significant difference in the amount of at bats you can actually get.
And it also seems too like Bryce Harper at $40. It seems like I've noticed in who you think should have got thrown back a lot of $40 players. I'm very happy with Bryce Harper at 40. I mean, National League MVP last year. I love that. And I still remember you did dig me a little bit for Harper at 40 last year.
Oh, he took the next step. He played well.
He got his second MVP. Heck yeah. He took the next step. Good Lord.
Yeah. I guess he didn't really take the next step. He basically put up identical numbers to what he did in 2019. So I guess I was kind of wrong on that.
Like usual.
Yeah, like usual. Hey, you guys still listen to the pod, don't you? Are we guaranteed that Chris Taylor is going to play every game every year, though, all year?
I mean, with the depth they have, they don't really have to. But again, if you look at him the last few years, why wouldn't he? He plays second, third, short outfield. So even if he's not penciled into second base every single day, someone's getting a day off. And now at the DH, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't get the same amount of at-bats he had last year.
Yeah. All right. Just a blah team. Oh yeah. Man. Just
little less than blah this year.
Let's start with the pitching staff.
No.
The pitching staff is okay. Musgrove for 12 is okay. It's not bad. I love it. That's Musgrove is his guy, former Pirate. It's his guy playing with the Padres. Okay, I'd take Musgrove for 12. German Marquez pitching Colorado, not ideal, but he'll strike out plenty of guys. He'll throw plenty of innings.
I still don't love him at $5. I don't know what the attraction.
He actually pitches better in Colorado than he does on the road. It's kind of weird. I think John Gray was kind of like that as well. Where it's like the difference in altitude changes your pitches, but you kind of get used to it when you're in Colorado, and it just kind of change. It's kind of weird. I don't know. Scherzer for 37, love it. I thought he was going to take a step back when he was, approaching 37, 38 years old. Gotta love Scherzer for 37. I'd pay 37 for Scherzer. Tyone, I wouldn't touch him. Injury concern, just not great numbers for 3, but okay. And Chapman for 12. I have my concerns, but having a set closer who is going to have the job, he's likely to keep the job. You hope that the spin rate wasn't a concern, and hopefully that doesn't carry over this year. Hopefully he figures it out. But man, when they crack down on the freaking sticky substance stuff, man, his numbers skyrocket. That was a huge difference for him. So the pitching staff is okay. It's not the greatest pitching staff. It's not the worst. It's got some usable pieces. This offense is horrible. It's not horrible. It's okay. There's just not a single offensive player here that I actually want on my team at its current price. Eric, do you see a guy here that you would actually want on your team for the price that he is?
I would say I would argue Altuve at 18. I mean, last year 120 runs, 30 home runs, 350 on base. I'll take that.
He's a cheater.
Well, yeah, throw that back. Yeah.
Would you rather have Altuve for 18 or Ketel Marte for 18?
And heading into this season, probably Marte if he stays healthy. Yeah.
So that's why it's like I wanted to make.
But I don't think it's like a huge gap.
Yeah, I like negotiating with Dave. He's a fun guy to talk to. But I was just like, I don't see anything here that I actually want on my team. So I just I don't really know what to do here.
Well, let's bring the batting. Let's bring the OBP thing up again. If you look at last year's numbers, again, he has two that had over 3.
Last year's numbers or projections?
I think I have last year's numbers up right now. Yes, I do. He has 2 guys that had over a 320 OBP last year. Yeah. And again, we looked at those numbers, right? 324 was the last team on base percentage. He has 2 guys that have over 320 last year. So his needs are completely obvious. He needs to target guys that are like 370, 380 on base percentages, or he will finish last in the league.
I don't understand why people keep keeping and viewing Adley Rutschman as a fucking asset. Adley Rutschman for $8 for an $8 catcher when Wilson Contreras is $9. Adley Rutschman's ceiling this year is Wilson Contreras, and there's no guarantee he hits his ceiling. Catchers take a while to develop. Young catchers, Danny Jansen from 4 years ago was like this top prize prospect that was going to come up and take the world to storm. He hasn't done shit yet because their priority when they get to the major leagues is to learn pitches and framing pitchers and get to know their
communication.
pitches, get to know their pitchers. They can't focus on their hitting. It is very rare that catchers actually come up and hit as we expect them to. Joey Bart has not come up and hit very well. These guys take a while. And if you're paying $8 for a catcher where you can get a $1 catcher that's likely going to produce a lot more, and next year Adley Rutschman is going to be $13. So I don't get why people keep adding Adley Rutschman. And Dave traded for Christian Vazquez last year, who was $2. I like Christian Vazquez for $2 way more than Adley Rutschman for $8. I don't get why he threw back or why he even traded for Rutschman in the first place. And when he had Vazquez for $2, I would rather add Vazquez for $1, but it doesn't make any sense. But hey, thank you, Dave. I appreciate you throwing back Christian Vazquez. Hopefully I can scoop Christian Vazquez up for $1 in the auction this year, because I sure as hell would not pay $8 for Adley Rutschman.
And that's the thing too, is I think Dave's team is at least, I would argue 2 pitchers away. I like Scherzer, Musgrove. I think you can ride with that, but I think he still needs 2 quality pitchers in the draft. And again, offensively, I mean, this is a guy who had Brian Reynolds last year, I think for $3, and he traded him. Just a lot of mistakes made. Less than a blah team this year. He should change his name to less than.
He's only going to have, I mean, he has $83 to spend. But if he's buying 2 mid-level pitchers at like $20, $30 a piece, then it's really only going to leave him like $20, $30 to address the big concerns he has in on-base percentage. As you mentioned, not a lot of speed here either. So
not at all.
It's
a lot of holes.
What he can kind of do here. I drafted him pretty high in the division draft for a reason. I don't like what I see here. I'm scratching my head at the Adley Rutschman thing. Yep. Tyler, do you have anything different from what we've said, or anything you want to throw in here?
I mean, the Rutschman, I don't like Sanyo, even at $3. I don't like him at all.
Yeah.
Arenado at 31 isn't terrible, but I mean, it's still 31. I mean, you're getting a quality infielder, but Baez is your only speed at 18. Josh Bell is the only guy in his team that I really like for 11. Which is saying a lot, because I mean, you're looking at what, 350, 27 home runs, 88 RBIs. Like, that's not, he's an average player, a little above average maybe. Austin Meadows, he's got the power, but he doesn't get on base.
Yeah, well, like Josh Bell is fine. He's a decent player. He's an average player, but he's an average player at an average price for 11. I'd much rather have Luke Voit for 3 than Josh Bell for 11. And it's just all very blah value. His offense is nothing but that. And
Marquez, like you said, you like Marquez. I don't. I'm looking at a 4.40 ERA and a 1.27 whip. You're paying for strikeouts that you're not even guaranteed. I for 5, I don't even like him for 5.
No, I don't either.
I think the strikeouts are guaranteed. He's always been kind of around a strikeout an inning. One strikeout an inning.
But if your ERA is a 4.4 and your whip's a 1.3, is that worth it? Do you take it for that?
And I kept Mize at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That wraps up just a blah team. We'll move on to Pablo Sanchez, Eddie Mazur's team. Wow, we were really dragging this on. Eric, how you doing on time? How late can you say?
Oh, dude, I'm good. We can keep rolling. Okay. We're covered. Right.
Okay, Pablo Sanchez, Eddie Mazur's team. Some more head scratchers here. It's a real shame that Eddie's not more involved in like the chat and in negotiations and stuff. I wish we could kind of get some, if he doesn't want to be involved in the chat, that's one thing, but did not get any counter offers. I don't know if he's just that insulted or what, but I think that there are some opportunities for Eddie to improve his roster this offseason. We've seen so many transactions, so many trades made that Eddie could have gotten involved in, that really could have kind of turned things around for him. So he could have gotten out of the basement that he was in last year. I like some of the players that he has. He's got some solid players that would be some solid trade bait. I know Peter was dying to trade for Luis Robert at 28, and I think he would have probably given him a good price for him. I mean, I was dying to get Jesse Winker, Byron Buxton. I love me some Byron Buxton. But there's also some guys in here like Madrigal for 6. what fantasy wise is Magical providing you for
Nothing.
$6? He's a good batting average guy, but I don't know about on base percentage. I'm sure it'll be decent, but speed, he might give you like 12 stolen base. I don't think he's gonna be a 30 stolen base guy, and he's not gonna hit for power. I don't think he's gonna play every day either.
I don't see him being an everyday guy with Nico Horner out there with that Andres
and
Simmons.
Jonathan Villar.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean, Will Smith for 8 is solid. That'd be a good
There's a perfect example of your Adley Rushman comment, by the way. Look at Will Smith's numbers last year and basically say that's what Adley Rushman would have to do to make an $8 player. Because
exactly.
Yeah.
Can somebody explain McNeil for 10?
I'd say historically, if you go back to 2018, 2019, which is a while ago, or 2020, it's very limited playing time, but I also said the same thing at $10. I don't know if I'm taking that risk. I think you could have thrown him back in and got him at a lower price, but I do see that 2019 season where that would look attractive.
Yeah, I guess, but even that's a career high of 23 homers, a career high 75 RBIs. I mean, I guess, yeah, maybe the on base percentage is decent, but he's not even guaranteed to play every day either with some of the guys that they've kind of added in the offseason as well. That's a head scratcher.
I don't hate Eddie's team. Well, I do hate Eddie's team for the most part, but I don't hate some of the values he has. I think, like you said, Buxton at 9, Winker at 1. I think Bobby Witt Jr., from everything I'm hearing, this guy is going to be in the big leagues very, very soon. I think Bobby. What's that?
I heard starting third baseman this season, opening day.
Yeah, I mean, like Bobby Witt, watch out for this guy. I mean, he's going to be really, really good. So I love Witt at $8. I think he will 100% probably even be worth $13 next year, but we'll see. Obviously,
who's gonna have a better year, Franco or Witt?
Witt.
I agree.
Yeah, I'll probably say Witt. Witt's good, man, and he keeps developing. So we'll see.
Witt's gonna steal bases.
Yeah, for sure. Witt's really good. But so is Franco, but we'll see. But obviously the big question is Eddie. There's a few teams out there that need like 4 or 5 pitchers, and I think we've been really highlighting that this draft. That's going to make them a really hard case. And your 2 pitchers are guys that have never really been stretched out very well, or that haven't really. I mean, Gallen. I like Gallen. He's put up good numbers in his career. Last year pitched 120 innings, most he's ever pitched. Now Kopech, all the talent in the world, right? I don't mind him keeping him at $10. If he's going to be in the rotation, he could be an absolute steal at $10. But again, your 2 guys in the rotation are guys that have never pitched more than 120 innings in the big leagues. So you got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And we talk about Chad's team, we talk about these teams that need pitching, where it's like, yeah, we all need pitching. All these teams need pitching, but like Eddie needs to fill out a rotation. Chad needs to fill out a rotation. Krim needs to fill out a rotation. There's not enough arms available. And Peter sent me a message not too long ago saying, I think there's pitching out there. Is there pitching out there when you have all these teams that need to spend money on pitching and there's not really that many arms? Like the guys that are there may be 2 pitchers in the entire free agent pool that are going to throw 200 innings. And that's even stretching it. It might be you, Darvish, and Hendricks maybe throw 200 innings. No one else.
I think having elite pitching is going to mean even more this year because again, there is going to be some little effect of the fact that the season is starting a little bit later. They're still playing 162 games. They're scheduled double headers in, and I think the trend for baseball is leaning towards more of don't have your guy throw 230 innings and be gassed come postseason. Have him pitch 180. So the 200 inning thing is becoming such a rarity now.
Yeah, I have to agree. And it's just like, I like some of these plays. Like I like the kind of core that Eddie has. I just don't think he's done enough to maximize kind of what he has. I mean, I love Buxton stays healthy. Buxton's a top 5 MVP candidate. Winker tore it up last year. What are you laughing at, Eric?
I'm not going to get into that one again. I'm not
going
to
spend time
on that one.
Like you want to play the Wander Franco game of
you are here's the most funny, the funniest thing about this conversation is you are the king of like sample sizes and like it's too small, this and this and this. That is the epitome of this, like a 50 game sample size, because nowhere else in Buxton's career has he even been like a fantasy relevant player outside of his rookie year when he stole 29 bases, and that's the only thing he did. Pull up his player card, look at that sample size from last year. Will I take that for $9? dollars, hell yes. But don't sit here and tell me top 5 MVP candidate right now. Come on now, that's too much.
You just got done making the argument for Wander Franco about, well, if you double his stats and give him 600 at bats, if you give Byron Buxton 600 at bats, he's got 50 home runs, 30 steals, and a 358 on base percentage.
This is going to be Buxton's 6th year in baseball, dude. Yeah, Wander Franco's entering year.
I didn't say he's going to be.
I know
if he could stay healthy.
But Wander Franco's entering the second half of his first year. I mean, I don't think that you can even make that comparison. Buxton, if you remember, was the #1 prospect in baseball coming up. He was highly touted. He's had 6 years, man. And he finally had a 50-game stretch, and we're now saying a top 5 MVP candidate. Good Lord.
I don't think it's arguable. I think that if Buxton, it's not likely to happen, but if Buxton gets 500 plate appearances, he will be like top.
He's got the tool set.
Sure. But the thing about it is like there's guys that like play well, but there's guys that like change their skills. Like you look at what Byron Buxton did, and like you look at like his stat cast, and it's just like off the charts. Like he had a clear. It wasn't that he just got hot and he like a few fly balls just fell lightly over the fence. He kind of got lucky. Like he like really improved his ability of what he could do at the plate, and that's kind of the difference between it too. And I look at that. If this team stays healthy, if Buxton stays healthy, if Gallon can somehow throw 160, 170 innings, if Winker can play every day, if he stays on the field, if Yordan Alvarez doesn't have knee injuries, if Bobby Witt is up to start the year, if Luis Robert doesn't get hurt, if Madrigal doesn't get hurt, he's got a lot of injury guys, but if somehow he can find a 4-leaf clover somewhere and his team stays healthy, he could be relevant, but he's got some work to do with the pitching staff. Yep. I wish Eddie would have been around to trade for some of the pitching that we've seen get traded this offseason. I mean, yeah, I don't love some of the values that Phil had, but like a Hyun-Jin Ryu, who you know is going to kind of get you 180 innings, even at like $18 would kind of like look good on this team at whatever he is. Like a guy like Blake Snell, like, yeah, Blake Snell for like 22 or whatever he had him for might not be great. He wasn't kept, but like that might be okay when you're starting your rotation with guys like Gallon and Kopech. So
I also don't. Also, sorry, keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, like, with the guys that, as you mentioned, the guys that aren't going to throw a lot of innings, it wouldn't be a bad idea to kind of supplement with some guys that maybe aren't great, but are going to throw innings.
And I would say too, I'm all for keeping the higher price players because again, I don't think there's a ton of talent in the draft. I don't love Story at 36.
I don't either.
Moving from Colorado, I know he's going to be hitting in Boston, arguably maybe a better lineup, but. Man, again, I don't know. I don't love him for 36.
Yeah, I would not have kept him for 36, but I think the move to Boston kind of helps him. It's going to help his counting stats, RBIs, and runs. I think he'll still keep the stolen bases because, you know, Boston's going to be irrelevant. They're going to need him to steal, but I think the home runs are going to go down. Right. You'd mentioned the home runs with Chris Bryant. Surprisingly, yeah, the home runs do go up when you go to Colorado. The biggest thing that goes up when
doubles and triples.
It's the batting average.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. And we saw that with Arenado.
The field's so big.
Arenado hit 31 home runs last year. His power was fine, but Arenado had like a 40% batting average dip. If we go back to just the Blah team, let's take a look at what Arenado did. And it was like same with like Good Dyer and some of the guys that we've seen leave Colorado.
Yeah. It's not the power. It's just the field's so big in Colorado that you get so many more doubles, and it's a huge field.
Yeah, I mean, Arenado went from being a 309, 297, 315 batting average guy to being a 255 batting average guy last year. So his batting average, based on what his career numbers were, went down like 40%, 40 points, basically 4%. So yeah, I mean, it was tough to see that hit, and I think you can expect the same thing for Trevor Story. He'll be on base less, but I think the counting stats being in a better lineup will kind of make up for it. All right, we'll move on to Pete's team. Pete also made some questionable keeper decisions that I'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
What do you think about how Pete's looking?
Really dumb to keep. I think Eugenio Suarez at 16. I'll just be honest. I think, yes, you could again go back to 2019 and say if he does that, 100%. But when you're 2 years removed from that, again, a 286 OBP is not feasible, I think, for 30 home runs. How many guys hit 30 home runs now? A lot of them, and I'm not paying him $16 to do it. So I don't like that at all. But in terms of his other players, Kana for $1, Lux for $1 is not awful. Eloy Jimenez, again, we'll see. He had a very small sample size last year, and I hate to keep harping on it, but it's something I've noticed. OBP wise last year, you really got to watch out for that. That's why Kyle didn't. He didn't like the Castellanos for Eloy thing was interesting to me because I will take Yes, Krim. Castellanos, I will take the 12 extra dollars right now, knowing Castellanos has done that time and time again, rather than the ceiling of Eloy right now. Because again, if Eloy hits 35 home runs, 100 RBIs, that's great. But if he does it with a 310 on base percentage, we'll see how that is. But again, at $8, that's a bargain. So I like his other players. Walsh at 1, Turner at 41 is great. Pitching, Burns, I like. Cease is great. I don't know why he kept Kimbrel. I know at that price with the saves he had last year, awesome, but he's not a closer. It was just pointless. It was a waste. It's honestly a wasted spot. And then the closer you do have is a team that might win 59 games this year, where you're going to get maybe 20 saves. So overall, not a fan. I'm not even a huge fan of the Tristan McKenzie keep either, but I do like Peter's team overall. I think he's really got good, solid players. So I think he's going to be a top half of the team playoff team this year. But at the same time, you're right. There was some questionable calls.
Yeah, and he let go of Luis Patino for 6 so that he
yeah, I don't like that. I keep him over McKenzie any day of the week, right?
Yeah,
over Kimbrel.
But the thing about he's gonna channel his inner Daryl Morey, and he's gonna do some cap gymnastics here. What he's gonna do is he's gonna hang on to Craig Kimbrel in hopes that in the next week and a half the Sox trade.
Yeah, I mean it could work out. Yeah,
and if the White Sox trade Craig Kimbrel to the Padres in the next week, then he's got a steal for $3.
Oh,
and
for sure, 100%.
If he wasn't planning on keeping Patino anyway, then fine. Then this is kind of where it's at. So like it could happen. It's basically like a lottery ticket. It's a scratch off lottery ticket that he has in Craig Kimbrel. I think Melanson's ceiling is 15 saves, because if Melanson, not only is he not like the best closer in the world, he's playing for a shitty Diamondbacks team, and if the best case scenario is if he's very good at his job, they trade him at the deadline so that he can be a setup man somewhere else. So I don't really see the path for like more than 15, 20 saves for Melanson, because it's like best case scenario, he gets traded somewhere where he's a setup man. Worst case scenario, he loses his job and they go with somebody younger, because he's not really like the best closer in the whole world either. McKenzie, I don't love him for 2 either, but he's fine. I mean, he's shown flashes of being a very good player. For $2, I'd probably keep him for 2. Not in my rotation, but in some people's rotations. Yes, McKenzie for 2. Cease, you got to hope that he does not regress. I think he's a prime regression candidate once kind of guys learn how to hit him a little bit better. I don't think he's going to put up the numbers that he put up last year. I think there's kind of some regression coming. Maybe the strikeouts stay, but maybe some regression in ERA and whip.
Those strikeouts in those innings are awesome. Could you, those strikeouts over 200 innings would be close to 250. I mean, that's 260, right? I mean, that's
more than that, because it's like a 1.5 strikeouts innings. So if you give him 40 more innings, that's 60 more strikeouts. It's like,
yeah, dude, you're close to 300 strikeouts. I mean, at $10, that is, I love Dylan Cease, and being a Cubs fan, it's tough, but I mean, yeah, Dylan Cease looked good last year.
Yeah, we could use Dylan Cease in our rotation. That's for sure.
Before we continue, don't you have a quote from somewhere saying that Pete said that he had the best rotation in the league?
No, he said he had the best infield in the league.
Best infield.
Yeah, so he said that the infield of Jared Walsh, Trey Turner, Manny Machado, and Eugenio Suarez is the best infield in the entire league. Eric, thoughts?
I'd argue my infield's better already, but I mean, we can roll. I could flip Chris Bryant over to third base and my infield's better. So that ends that conversation right there.
I think Phil's got a solid infield. He's got Jose Ramirez at third base. I think a few guys. Crimmy's got a decent infield.
Yeah, I don't think Peter's got the best infield. No, good controllable players, cheap players, but no, not the best.
Yeah. Plus, why would he keep Gavin Lux?
I don't know. I don't like
Gavin Lux is a bench player. He's not starting.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still think there's going to be a lot of at bats to go around there, but again, I don't really think you can start someone that's only going to maybe get 350 to 400 at bats on the regular either, because that's 2-3 days a week he's not playing.
Yeah, I don't really understand that. Like, yeah, I get it. He's a top prospect. And yeah, he's $1. He's cheap. But like, if you have Gavin Lux in your lineup, like, I hope I get to play Peter in weeks that Gavin Lux is in his lineup, unless he's banking on Justin Turner getting hurt or Chris Taylor. Yeah. Because as soon as one guy gets hurt, those infielders like Chris Taylor and Muncy are so flexible that they just kind of rotate them around and Lux just play second.
Team is absolutely loaded, man.
So I mean, I guess that makes sense where if you're just banking on somebody to get hurt, but if you're keeping a guy to the point where you're banking on somebody else to get hurt, that's not a good strategy. Not a good strategy for success. I like the Eloy trade. I think I would rather have the $11 of savings or whatever it was. Walsh for $1 is one of the best values in the league, but Jared Walsh is like wicked splits. If I can pull it up here, what righty versus lefty, he hit 170 versus lefties for his last year, 333 versus righties. So I would not be surprised if the Angels like bring in, like, it would make sense for the Angels to actually bring back Albert Pujols to platoon with the did Pujols sign somewhere or no?
I don't think so. No.
Because like Pujols, is going to hit lefties better than 170. So like, I don't know, Jared Walsh is guaranteed to play every day if they can find somebody that's going to hit better than 170 versus lefties. I heard about that.
Right.
That was crazy for like as good of numbers as he had. Like, granted, he's still going to be like a large side platoon player where like obviously there's more righty pitchers in the league than lefties, and he's still going to put up numbers. But yeah, I don't think Walsh is going to hit 40 home runs. Maybe he can, but I'm not 100% sure he plays every single day. But for $1, I mean, surefire keeper. Eugenio Suarez doesn't make any sense for 16. I don't love Machado, but that's just more of a personal thing. For 29, he's fine. Trey Turner, 41, great. You get what you pay for. You think he's the number one fantasy player now that Tatis is out. Canna for 1 is fine. I like Canna for 1, one of the best values in Eloy. So his offense is decent. Doesn't knock my socks off. Doesn't wow me by any means. Same thing with the pitching staff. Corbin Burns is a great start, but after that, doesn't really do a whole lot for me. I think Peter's gonna have some money to spend. I think he's got like $120 something to spend. Let me see what
he's in a good spot. Yeah,
$123 to spend in the auction, which is good, but he's
still some questionable decisions.
He's gonna have his work cut out for him. Chris, sliding into the DMs makes me want to shit my pants. Chris has got a good team. He hasn't really made a whole lot of moves this offseason. He hasn't really had to. He's kind of pretty much set in where he's at. He's been patient and not kind of needing to make any moves, as he has every right to be. I've tried to kind of snag some of the guys that he has on his roster to no avail. I put Simeon on the table for some of his players like Bichette, and he's like, nah, I'm good. But yeah, I mean, there's not really any holes here. He's got speed. He's got Bichette and Edman. He's obviously got power in Bichette, Springer, Martinez, Guerrero. His pitching staff is maybe the top pitching staff in the league. I personally think mine's a little bit deeper, but also he has Liam Hendricks as his closer. So that kind of gives it a little bit more of a boost over mine, who doesn't have a closer. It's hard to get better when you start your rotation with Walker Buehler, Freddie Peralta, Ian Anderson. It's hard to get a whole lot better than that. Logan Gilbert, I expect high things from him this year. I think he's pretty solid. He trained with Jacob deGrom in the winter, and so if he can just learn a thing or two from deGrom, he is going to be freaking deadly. So I think the rotation is going to be solid. It's a top 3 rotation. Hendricks bumps it up even further, and the offensive weapon that he has between the Blue Jays, it's a scary team. I really like what he has here.
Yeah, I agree. I think you couldn't have said it any better. Loaded, everyone can hit for home runs. The one guy that doesn't hit a lot of home runs is the guy that steals his bases, and Edman for $5, Kirilloff for $8. So he's got the good cheap players. And I don't care what Rendon's season was last year. If he's in the draft again, I don't know if he goes cheaper than $22. I really don't. So I don't love
the value, but that's fine.
Yeah, I like Rendon at 22. I think that's great. The Angels hopefully can actually be good this year. It'd be fun to watch them actually have a postseason run. But yeah, Guerrero, Bichette, Springer in Toronto. I mean, that team's absolutely loaded. The rotation, you can't find a weak spot. Gilbert's a huge K guy. Peralta at $2 is one of the best bargains in the game. So yeah, Chris's team's definitely loaded, and he's going to go into the draft feeling very confident with the money he can spend, that he can go out and basically do whatever he wants.
He's got $44 to spend in the draft too, which isn't nothing, but it's not a ton. But he doesn't have any holes to fill. So
but again, he can get away with getting a guy.
Yeah,
he can get away with getting a guy for $35, $40 and basically sit the rest of the draft and say, I'm going to fill it with a bunch of depth.
Tyler, we'll get to our power rankings. I know you don't have a full set of power rankings, but Tyler, is there a better team on paper than Chris's team?
I don't think so. I don't like Kirilloff at 8, but that's going. You're on last year's stuff, are you not right now?
Yeah, these are 2021 stats.
I don't like Kirilloff. I don't know who he got rid of, to be honest, but I don't like Kirilloff even at 8.
Well, he traded away a few players. He traded away Bauer. He traded away the guy that I actually think he fucked up on trading was Eduardo Rodriguez for 4. I would not have traded him to get Rendon for 22. And then he also traded one more player, I think, in a deal to my dad. I forget who it was. Yeah, I don't remember who. Oh, Benintendi for 1. So he traded Benintendi for 1, Eduardo Rodriguez for 4, and Bauer to my dad for $22 Anthony Rendon. I hated that trade, but we'll get into it in a little bit. It's fine if he needed to fill his third base and didn't see another way to do it. He overpaid, but fine.
I don't like Rendon.
Go back to being like the 35 home run, 100 RBI guy with good on base percentage. He's been basically his entire career. Then it's fine. Sorry for cutting you off, Tyler.
No, you're good. I mean, I don't like Rendon. He's not awful, but like you said, I mean, he's got to come around. Edman, you're paying for stolen bases essentially. You got a 300 on base percentage. He scored some runs. I mean, he fills everything back out there. You got Vlad, 120 runs, 111 RBIs, 48 home runs. He's damn near a triple crown. I mean, like you said, best pitching lineup, best pitching rotation in the league probably. Even if yours is deeper, he's got ones, and twos. I mean, you're not looking at a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. You're looking at top of line guys. I mean, I think if I had it, I don't have a full power rankings, but I think I got Chris right somewhere at the top.
You know who Chris threw back? Chris threw back Matt Barnes for $1.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be a closer this year though. Too, we'll see.
He
struggled.
But if he is, I think he will be to start. But for $1, I would much rather take the chance on Barnes for $1 over Kirilloff for 8. We just don't know what Kirilloff's going to be.
For sure.
I don't think there's a whole lot more to say, more to add to it. Chris is solid. He's number 1 in my power rankings. He's last on the board for the divisional draft, and I think that's all there is to it. Phil, my father, feels weird calling him by his first name. I hope that's not disrespectful, but for the purposes of the podcast, sorry for the disrespect. Phil has a very interesting team. He had a very interesting offseason. You guys all got messages from Phil for different trades. I know it's kind of wheel and deal, a little overboard maybe sometimes, but hey, we all get into it. I mean,
the apple does not fall far.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Apple does not fall far from the tree. That's for sure. Had to learn it somewhere. But yeah, I mean, he definitely had moves to make, and he made so many like 3-for-1s where he had like thrown back like 7 or 8 guys just because that's kind of what it was. And like he had guys that were like okay guys. The problem was that like the guys that he had like were just okay guys where like you really had to see some of the value in some. You really had to sell guys on some of these players, like his Eric Hosmers and his Carlos Santanas and his Kyle Hendrickses and Hyun-Jin Ryu's, that it was just like these guys just aren't really desirable players. Like even if you throw 3 or 4 of them at me, I'm still not really interested, especially if some of us that thought we had 10, 11 or 12 keepers, doesn't really do a whole lot for us. But he was able to swing a few deals and be successful with it. And he's got a solid squad. This squad right here is the best offense in the league. There is no holes in this offense. It has the best power, top 3 steals at least. He's going to give Tyler a run for his money, if not more steals than Tyler. I mean, between Whit Merrifield, Jose Ramirez, Shohei Ohtani, Kyle Tucker, I mean, those guys are probably going to steal more bases than Mondesi and Marte, especially considering Mondesi's injury risk. So, I mean, there's no real gaps in his offense. It's really, truly incredible. But as the big but is the pitching staff. He's got 5 spots in his rotation to fill. We just got done talking about how much money Eddie has to fill pitching, how much money Chad has to fill pitching, how Crimmy needs pitching. And so like, yeah, it's easy to go, oh, well, he's just going to have to fill pitching in the auction. Well, that's the difference between Tyler and Phil, was that Tyler went, I don't have the pitching, I need to go trade for it. Where Phil's taking the calculated risk, well, I'm just going to find it in the auction somewhere. But are you going to find it in the auction somewhere? I don't know that. And even if you find it in the auction, you're not going to get guys that have longevity. Phil, I have for $83 to spend. So yeah, you might be able to get like 2 guys and just kind of fill in a dollar utility player and some cheap closers maybe. But I don't really like how desperate he's going to be for pitching, and kind of, I wish he would have traded. I wish he was able to get a deal for some of his offensive players like a Schwarber or a Judge, which I know you guys got offered, but I wish he was able to find a dance partner to get rid of some of these Judge or Tucker guys to get in an ace here and to really fill out this rotation. Eric, what do you think?
I'll say this. Is there a way you could pull up like the stats for last year for offense, like the roto?
Oh, from last year? Yeah.
Yeah, like for the teams, like the totals and all that. Okay.
Yeah, it was he had
No, just tell me what the top number is for each category. Okay, ready for runs.
So
What was
runs 961.
And where would 824 finish?
11.
Okay, now here's the thing, mind you,
it would finish not 11th. It would finish, what's that, like
9?
Okay, mind you, what basically the exercise I'm doing is he's got pretty much his entire roster filled out, and it actually has all their stats from last year on the bottom. So you could basically say, okay, so he's got 824 with a spot to fill. So say he gets another 70, 80 run guy. What's that would put him at what?
That puts him at 900, which would be 6th.
Okay, home runs. What was the top guy last year?
298.
He's at 287 right now. RBIs.
One to fill.
RBIs.
969.
Okay, he's at 832. Stolen bases.
So if he finds a guy that drives in 80 RBIs, that's 911. So that would put him at 3rd.
Okay. Stolen bases.
He led the league at 120.
Okay. He would have 134 on his team, so that would be great. And on base percentage 351, which that would be first, right?
That would lead.
Okay, so right now you can look at him as a top 3 in every single category, in pretty much in every single offensive thing. So you're looking at 10 roto points each right now for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. What, 6 or 6? How many categories is there? 5 or 6?
5, yeah, 5.
5. So you're looking at close to 50 to 60 points already just from your offense.
Yeah.
But you got to get pitching, because right now, based on those numbers, that offense is loaded. Could maybe use a little help in certain categories, but it's kind of interesting that you can do that exercise and say, okay, he's basically got his offense filled out. Here's where he's going to finish based on those numbers next year. But you got it. I mean, obviously you have to get pitching, but that offense, you're right. There's not many holes at all. And he's already basically chalking in, as long as there's no injuries, 60 to 7, close to 70 roto points. Close to 60, 70 roto points right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think what he has to do is he has to pick 2 categories and go all in. I think what he can do is, if he could do strikeouts, if Tyler Mahle is a strikeout guy and Eduardo Rodriguez is a strikeout guy, if he could just go in and like all big strikeout guys and do it kind of that way, where he can maybe be, even though his like ERA and whip might suffer, and just go and be like a top 5, top maybe 3 strikeout guy, then you're kind of bumping that up. Then that's more of like an 80, 90 roto point floor.
Yeah, I mean, you just need 2 or 3. Yeah, you don't need much.
Saves as a crapshoot. And then, ERA, you just pitching a few points here and there, wins quality starts, a few points here and there, and now you're rocking. So yeah, I mean, it's a scary team. If things go right on his offense, it's definitely going to be something that
Phil actually moved up the most for my power rankings after all the trades were done, because I think, again, if he hits on a couple pitchers, man, again, he's already, as long as those guys stay healthy, he's literally locked in for 65 plus, close to 65 roto points. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would not have kept. He traded Rendon for 22. I don't think I would have kept him, and he got back a keeper in Benintendi for 1 and a keeper in Eduardo Rodriguez for 5.
I don't even like Benintendi at 1.
He's fine for 1. I don't love him either, but for $1 for a guy that's probably gonna hit 15 home runs, steal 15 bases. I mean, you can't really. I don't think there's gonna be many $1 players that do that. Mark Canha maybe is another one that might, but I mean. I thought Mark Canha was good value at 1. He's basically a very similar player.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. So the biggest trade for me, and I hate myself because I talked him into it, was the Grandal trade. I think it's going to pay huge dividends because of that on base percentage. His stars don't have great on base percentage. Ramirez is okay. Ohtani is okay. But for like a star player that you're paying those big salaries for, they're not high on base percentage guys like Trout and Soto. Like they're not like 400 on base percentage guys. So for him to get Grandal just puts him into the elite tier.
That was big.
No gaps in his offense. So I really like that move there. And that wraps it up because we already talked about Tyler's team, right?
Yep.
Right.
So I know we don't have a ton of time left. I know we want to do the power rankings, but I do want to have the Tatis conversation before we do that. Real quick, the Tatis conversation, without giving away too much strategy. I know you decided not to keep him, right? He was $46. All right. If you don't want to answer this question, that's fine. What do you think he goes for in the draft?
God, I see. The thing about it is I don't know, and I'm kind of taking this calculated risk. I still have some interest in Tatis, but like I don't know if I can pay $30 or $40 for him. Here's the thing about Tatis: if you spend $30, $40, $50 on Tatis, whatever you think it's going to take to get Tatis, you're donating your money. I don't see a path.
See, I disagree. I
don't see a path where you can spend $40 on Tatis. For the teams that have the money to spend who's the team that has $40 to spend on Tatis?
You ready for this?
That doesn't have another hole to fill.
Here, you ready?
Where you have to sacrifice something else.
Here, how much money does Chris have?
Chris has $40-some.
Okay. His team is so good right now. If Tatis goes for $30, $35, would you not fill the rest of your team out with $1 players? And like you could. Because here's my thing with Tatis. Okay, so he's coming back in June, right? He's going to miss half the season. Mm-hmm. Let's say, and obviously they might even have him DH a little bit. We don't know that changes things. So let's look at his season last year. He played 125 games. Let's say he comes back in June and plays. That would be about half the season left, 80 games. Let's say he plays 65 of those games. So we can literally cut his last season in half. He's going to hit 21 home runs with 48 RBIs, with 12 steals, with a 364 on base percentage, and he's going to have 50 runs. Okay. If you're telling me your team's already great, like Chris's or like yours or like maybe Crim's or teams like this, and you're telling me you could pay $30 and at midway through the season you get a guy that's basically a 40-40 player, but you get him right there at that season. I think teams that are good should go after him. I think teams that are bad should go after him. If you're Chad or you're Eddie, you're dumb if you don't go after Tatis as well. But if I don't think Tatis,
if Chad gets Tatis, he only gets half a season out of Tatis, then he just donated his money.
Sure, 100%. But I also think I don't think Tatis is going to go for much less than he already is. I don't think if Tatis is $25, I'm bidding that shit up because I don't think it's smart necessarily. I don't know.
Yeah, but here's the other thing is like you're also banking on Tatis being himself when he gets back. What happened to Chris Bryant after he came back from wrist injury? He was not the same player. It took him a while to recover from that. So I listened to a Pro Football Doc who specializes in these injury histories. He's thinking that it's more of not a 3-month injury, more of like a 4 to 6 month injury. He said if he gets back by the All-Star break, that he would be lucky to do that. And then when he gets back, you're banking on him being himself. When Tatis got back from shoulder injury last year, if we can do this, let's see here. I'm going to go to dates last 20. You can do this. And that's why I love FanTrack. So you figure out.
Dude, if I hear a sample size when his season,
no.
monster
all I'm
last
do
year
is his stolen base.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at 2020 dates, and if we go from, let's see here, after he hurt his shoulder, like let's say like the last 2 months from like August on, let's see here. Why is he not?
He's right there, middle. He's right there.
Okay. He stole 2 bases in the last 2 months of the year.
And I think when you see those elite players, you saw the same thing with Trout. I don't think you're going to see 35, 40 steals from him really ever again, just because teams are trying to protect their players. Yeah. And again, that's why the stat is a little overinflated as a category. Because
that sample size, and you're like, yeah, well, if you take half the season and then you double his normal production, yeah. But after his shoulder injury, he stopped stealing bases. He might protect the wrist more too. He might not steal bases because he wants to protect the wrist. So if he's not stealing bases, plus, with wrist injuries, power does not return right away. You're not always the same player you were. Chris Bryant saw this firsthand. You don't hit for power as well when you're coming off a wrist injury. So if Tatis comes back and he's not Fernando Tatis, which we don't really expect him to be, then like, what are you really getting?
Plus, here's my thing.
It's more like 150, 200 at bats, not 300 at bats.
Yeah, and everything I've heard says June. We'll see if that happens. So I'm just projecting a half season thing. But let's just say this. And here's the thing: he's going back in the draft, so now he doesn't go up $5 next year. So again, would you think Chris?
Part of the reason why I dropped him.
Right. Would you think Chris would be stupid for if he could get Tatis for $35, knowing how good his team is? He could fill the rest of his team out with $2 to $3 players. Is that not a viable strategy for a guy like Chris that at the deadline can basically say, I get Fernando Tatis, and if he's as good as he usually is, and if he's $30, he's a 100% keeper next year.
Okay,
that's why.
Yes, but you also have to look at this. All the players that are on Chris's team now, he has several solid keepers. all those players all go up by $5 next year. Would he be
even
able
more reason to get Tatis? Even more reason.
But are you going to be able to afford a $35 Tatis when you have to pay every one of those all those other 11 players $5 more? 11 times 5 is $55 more. That's an additional $55 in salary that he has this year that he won't have next year.
Yeah,
so he won't have that extra $35.
All I'll say is this: I know Tatis isn't. I'm not trying to argue that he's worth $46 because I know over a season he's not going to compare stat wise to other dudes that are that much. But I will say this: I think him going back in the draft this year, I will be shocked if Tatis still goes for under $35. I would be shocked.
I maybe, yeah, but like at the same, like I said before, like if you are bidding on Tatis, you are likely donating your money. Look at some of the $30 players last year that busted and the teams that they were on. Hey, how did having Cody Bellinger for 41 work out for you last year, Tyler?
I didn't pay for him. I traded for him.
Yes, but you still had that salary on you. And how did it work out for you, Eric? How did when Bellinger was on your roster, what did your team look like?
But the thing is though, Kyle, is whenever Fernando Tatis has played, he's been amazing. So it's not really a question of like, is he good or not? Fernando Tatis, when he's on the field, has been amazing. He's been amazing.
$30+ on a player that you were getting zeros from, or that you're getting lack of production from, you are killing your roster, especially for teams that need pitching and need other needs and stuff like that. Because the teams that spent up on Bellinger last year, it spent up on Yelich last year, that did that, like base in Nola last year, that didn't work out. When you take $30 and you get a zero from that, or you get a negative asset, it fucks your team up.
It sure can, but compete. But it also, I will be. I'm just saying, I will be very surprised if Tatis goes for less than $30 in that draft. I will be, because I think there. What do you think, Tyler? What's your take on this? After, like, what do you think?
The way I look at it is, Kyle keeps arguing he's not going to steal bases. That's fine. Trey Turner went for $41. Trey Turner doesn't steal bases.
What? What do you mean, Trey Turner?
No, I'm thinking of someone else. Sorry, Trey Turner stole 20, 30.
30 something, I think.
I don't see why Tatis. I don't see him stealing zero bases. I don't see him turning into a Mike Trout. That's not the kind of player that he is.
Right. And like I said, with the DH, with him playing more outfield, I mean, obviously they're going to tell him to steal probably a little less to avoid that injury.
34. I was looking at projections. Okay, so I
34 projected. He had 32 last year.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking of a different player, but still, like, even if Tatis is stealing 10 bases, I still think he's worth what Trey Turner's worth.
But 10 bases over 150 at bats is still like a 30 stolen base pace. He's not a 30 stolen base pace guy if they're protecting him. And if he's not, so it's like, yeah, maybe he's a 10 stolen base guy over 600 stolen base, which really means in the last 2 months of the year, he might steal 3 bases.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tatis
I think he's going to
go. He's going to go for 35, 40. There's no going around it. There's no way Tatis goes less than 30. There's no way.
I don't think there is. And I think I think you could argue that people that are really good teams should go for him. And I think there's teams that are in the bottom. If Chad can get Tatis for $30, knowing he's not going to be good this year, how valuable of a trade chip is that later in the year? A $30 Tatis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. That's why I don't see any way Tatis goes for basically what you let him go for.
I got Seager and Turner mixed up. Seager doesn't steal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But no, I didn't want to like take too much time on it. But I'm just curious because I don't think your decision is bad. But I also like I said, I've made that point clear that I think
he's certainly not a $46 player. And if I kept him for 46, I'm torpedoing my team.
I don't think so. I think your team is not bad.
But then I don't get to keep Nelson Cruz, or I don't get to keep somebody
right.
else.
But if you're confident in your team that you think you can get to, if you're confident in your ability to go out there and say, I'm going to get this guy for $2 and this guy for $3 and know they're going to be productive and fill out that slot. And then I don't know. I think it's workable. I really think it's workable.
I do have $83 to spend in the auction. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Was Tatis your biggest shocker of a guy that wasn't kept, or you think it was the best value that was thrown back?
No, not really. And I'm not trying to make that point because I don't think it's like a stupid decision to send him back by any means. It's more so the topic of I'm just curious what he goes for in this draft because I don't think I wouldn't have been shocked if you kept him because again, I don't think it would have been the worst decision in the world either. Is he going to be a $46 player? No, he's not, because he's not playing 6 months. But if you think your team's good enough right now, and you think you can go into June or July and get Tatis on your team for nothing, basically, I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Real quick,
Go ahead, Tyler.
To tag on to Eric saying that a good team should be going for him, like, you don't have a ton to fill. So if you keep him and you have $40 to spend on whatever players and you just fill your team, rest of the team out.
Right.
Midway through the season, what can you turn Tatis into? What can you trade Tatis into? Can you pick up another ace? Can you trade him for something else like that? What are you going to spend $80 on that you don't already have?
If I'm being honest, like, I hope a guy like Phil goes and gets Tatis, because if a contending team goes and gets Tatis and is going to take a 0 in the category, well, not a 0 in the category because you get his replacement, but like if he's Tatis going to rot on your roster and you're not going to spend that money that you have filling other holes that you have in your roster, a guy like Phil who needs to address pitching, and you want to spend it on Tatis, please be my guest. You're just digging your own grave at that point. For teams that have these holes to fill, that need closers and need starting pitchers and need stolen bases and have these different needs, them, if you want to go and get Tatis, please be my guest. Like, go for it, because like I'll be congratulating myself, because I'll be like, awesome, you just wasted your half of your season of Tatis and all this auction money that you no longer have to fill the holes that you actually have on your roster with guys that isn't going to fill any of the holes on your roster because he's hurt.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. I'm very, very curious to see what he goes for. I might just round him out right at the way. We'll see.
If Chad wants him, Chad can spend $60 on him, and that'll be the end of it. My biggest surprise, I said before, Justin Turner for $1, I think was the best valued guy that got thrown back. I understand why you did it. I'm not knocking you for it. Eric, just kind of you had 13, you had to get rid of somebody. If you had thrown back Taylor would probably be number 1 on the list of guys. Yeah. Kepler for 6, I kind of liked, but I don't know if I kept him at 6, but definitely worth conversation. Carlos Santana is a solid on base percentage for 2. I'm surprised nobody really was interested in him. Matt Barnes for 1. Chris could really go back and kick himself if Matt Barnes is still a 30 save guy on the Boston Red Sox. Patino for 6, we talked about. Christian Vasquez for 2. God damn it, David, you dunce. To keep Rutschman. Kyle Lewis for 18 kind of surprised me that he threw him back. Grisham for 14, another guy, Eric, that I know you wouldn't have kept Grisham for 14, but he's kind of got that upside.
I thought about it. I mean, he's not bad, I don't think. Yeah.
McMahon for 5, Liriano for 6. We talked about. JD Davis for 1 was thrown back. I mean, JD Davis for 1 would be, I'd kind of like him for 1. I don't love JD Davis, but I mean, for 1, he could be something. Jock Peterson for 4, Mitch Garver for 1. You traded for Mitch Garver for $1. You didn't even keep him, Chad. What the fuck? Mackenzie Gore for 8 for a guy that was kind of rebuilding. To not keep Mackenzie Gore was a little bit weird. He looks great in the spring. Eliezer Hernandez for 3. I would have kind of liked to keep him, but I didn't want to lock up all 7 spots. Yelich for 39. Wouldn't have kept him, but just wanted to throw him in there. And then Vidal Brujan for 8. He could be something. Unlikely, but he could. All right. Before we move on to, we might have to do trades. Another, I don't know how much.
We don't have time to go through all those trades, man. I think us covering those teams in depth was enough. We can maybe on the next one do like crazy trades that we didn't think should have happened. But I do think, I will say, and me and you agree on this, Jay giving up Austin Riley at $1, that trade yesterday with Krim boggles my mind, because Krim got to shed so much salary. And it's not like the Jays players were bad, but we highlighted it on his team earlier. He has $35 to go into the draft. That's not a lot at all. And he added salary in that trade, which was something he needed to do the opposite of. And again, he gets 2 good players, but Krim gets a closer. And Krim gets probably, I think you could honestly argue, the best $1 player in the league. Austin Riley's numbers last year, if someone hasn't looked at them, Austin Riley is a fucking stud, dude. He can play baseball. So I'm just shocked that Jay did that. I don't know what to say. I'm kind of shocked.
All right, Eric, I think let's do 20 seconds or less. Each trade grade off the top of your head. Oh. All right, sorry. I got on the screen here. Giolito for Morton and Nelson Cruz. Initial thoughts and grade.
I will say Giolito and Cruz. I don't know, B+. I don't know. It's tough. That's tough.
Who?
God, I'm not in full screen. Oh, you go first.
Okay. I'll zoom in. Can you not see it well?
No, I got it. I'm good. You're good.
All right. So I like this trade a lot. I wasn't keeping Giolito at 38 or whatever he's for. Nelson Cruz and Morton. I love Morton. High on Morton. Nelson Cruz, kept them both. Love the deal. Got 2.
I like that deal for you more than Jay. There you go.
All right, I got myself an A-, J, D+. Aaron Nola for Luis Castillo and Evaldi.
I like Aaron. Jeez, I'm trying to read these better. I like Castillo and Evaldi over Nola.
I like Evaldi over Nola and Castillo. I think just getting Evaldi alone was the best value in the deal. Nola, I don't love for 37, but he's okay. Castillo, I don't love for 29. They kind of wash each other out. So I love getting Evaldi on top of it.
Yep.
Big win for Bryce.
The next big one, yeah. So Abreu, Iglesias, Kikuchi, and Bregman to Justin for Gosman and Smith. You got Gosman at a great price there. Obviously, Smith as well. I think this is one of those that works for both teams, honestly, because Justin gets Abreu, who's a stud. Kikuchi's solid. Bregman, I think, is going to perform well. I honestly look at this as a pretty balanced trade for both teams.
Yeah, I give an A to both teams. Well, I give myself a B, an A to Justin. He was able to turn these pieces that he got in this trade into Jazz Chisholm for $2, which was big savings and big stolen bases for him. But the thing about it, I got to give myself a B is because Will Smith got demoted. So I should have known that they were going to trade for Jansen. So basically, I traded all of that just for Gausman.
Yeah, that makes it tough.
Didn't work out. So tough.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That's a lot.
Trey Turner for Tim Anderson and Yelich.
Well, Yelich didn't get kept, right? I mean, so it's basically Turner for Anderson. Turner's better, so that's an obvious winner.
Well,
right?
$20 difference in salary, $20 difference in salary, though.
I still think it's an obvious winner. I'd take the $20 with the 20 extra steals, with the 15 extra home runs any day of the week.
Trey Turner is the #1 player in fantasy baseball this year. Consensus first overall pick, especially with Tatis out. So yeah, much love it. Much more for Peter. Jay, what the fuck are you doing? You've made some very questionable.
Yeah, very. And his team's not bad, but he's shooting himself in the foot.
It would be a lot better if he not made some of these moves. Ryan Presley for Hendricks, Hoskins, and Ryu.
I don't hate
really just Hoskins for Presley.
Right. Again, that's why
Hendricks was moved. Never mind. Hendricks was moved.
Yeah.
Hendricks was kept.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why these trades makes it tough because there were so many moving pieces. That's a lot for one. I like Ryu's innings. I like Hoskins' home runs. So basically, I don't know. I like the Ryu Hoskins comeback more.
I'll give it a B for both sides. Both sides got what they wanted. Phil didn't make out great, but he did turn Hendricks into Yasmani Grandal. So this trade he doesn't get a B for, but for what he turned it into, he kind of gets a B overall.
Yeah.
B for Jay. He traded Presley for shit value, so he should get like an F because of what he turned Presley into, but whatever. Rendon for Bauer, Benintendi, and Rodriguez. I think that this is a C- for Christopher. I think it's a D- value, but if Christopher views this as he took two guys he wasn't keeping in Benintendi and Rodriguez and turned it into a guy he was going to keep, he may view it as fine. He overpaid, did not like the value, and I gave it an A for Phil. I think he got incredible value. He turned Bauer into more assets too.
Yeah, he did. And I really wonder how many starts Bauer gets, but if he starts 25 games, I mean, yeah, it's going to be big.
Doesn't matter because he turned Bauer into assets with Peter.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, so I guess we'll go A+ for Phil because I wouldn't have kept Rendon at third base, and he's got Ramirez, so he doesn't even have a third baseman need. So
20 seconds or less.
Yeah, all right, fine. All right, then we got the Bauer trade. Bauer for Vaughn, Kershaw, and Strasburg. None of these guys were kept, right?
No, I Kershaw's still good. I would have kept Vaughn and
not
Kershaw,
a single
probably.
player in this trade was kept, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Kimbrel for Rutschman. Dave gets an F.
F.
Peter gets a D. Yep. Peter gets a D. Could be an A though, because if it's out and Kimbrel gets traded, then it's an A. He traded a nothing in Rutschman for a closer for $3. The big one, Tatis and Wheeler for Sonny Gray, Pablo Lopez, Corey Seager, and Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, you just got fleeced on that one, Kyle. Point blank, simple, destroyed, especially not keeping Tatis. That's a lot of assets going Tyler's way. Good job, Tyler.
Yeah. What would the grade be if Tatis was healthy?
If Tyler keeping all those guys, Lopez, Seager, and deGrom are studs. I would say B+, A- Tyler, B- BU.
But you also got to add in the fact that Lopez turned into Gallo and Manaea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for a trade that got some criticism from some league members that Tyler got swindled, he gets an A+ from what it turned into. And even without Tatis getting hurt, the assets that he's keeping and the guys that he got back in this deal, what he turned them into, A+ for Tyler. He's able to overhaul his rotation and like the way his team's looking a lot better than it did before. Love Wheeler's value, but yeah, losing Tatis fucking killed me. Cronenworth and Chisholm for Lindor and Abreu. I'm giving Justin an A+. I'm giving Corey a D. Corey took on way too much salary, but he had to do what he had to do. I understand the move. I just hated it.
Yeah, I mean, Abreu and Lindor are the two best players in that trade. Obviously, you're paying up for him, but I mean, he did. I would argue he got the two best players in the
He
trade.
did. Oh, there's no doubt that he did.
Yeah.
I like Lindor way more than I like Chisholm, but I like the value of Chisholm way more than I like the value of Lindor. And the same thing goes for Abreu. I don't like Abreu is a better player than Cronenworth, but I'd much rather have Cronenworth for 4 than Abreu for 31. Tyler, what do you say?
I don't like Lindor at 36 at all.
I don't like it either. But to get the major, he had to do what he had to do. So it's kind of is what it is.
You guys are crazy. He's had one bad year in his career. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's true. But 36 is a lot. Grandal, Plesac, and Whit Merrifield for Rogers, Rosario, Garver, and Hendricks. Chad gets an F for this.
Yes, an F. I mean, who is he getting there? Rogers, awful. Rosario, I mean, awful. And he gives up good pieces in Grandal.
Yeah.
Merrifield is. I don't understand this one. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, if Chad just like would have given like a little bit more effort and just been like, hey, looking to move Whit Merrifield, but Chad offered this to Phil. This wasn't something that Phil offered to Chad and Chad just decided to accept. Chad literally plugged this in, sent it over,
good Lord,
and I don't understand it. Plesac didn't get kept, so whatever. But with Merrifield, there's only been guys. Everybody needs stolen base. Everybody wants stolen bases. Guys would have been lining up for Whit Merrifield.
Crazy.
I don't get why you didn't get like anything of value back. Rosario's fine for 8, but it's
crazy. Yeah.
Pablo Lopez, Mountcastle for Gallo and Minaya. I love it for Tyler's side.
Yep.
I think Minaya is probably better than Pablo Lopez, and he's cheaper and he's more healthy. Pablo Lopez has some shoulder concerns.
Gallo in that right field. Oh, in that New York porch. Watch out.
Yeah, exactly.
With the being banned, the shift, dude, hit OBP right there is going up.
Oh,
Not this 100%. Year though, next year though, and Gallo's going to be a $24 player next year though.
Could be worth it, honestly. Could be worth it.
Yeah, potentially. I'll give Tyler an A. I'll give who's that? Bryce a C-.
Yep, agreed.
All right, T1 Walker for Eloy and Castellanos. I like it more for Peter. I would take the $11 savings going from Castellanos to Eloy. If Eloy stays healthy, him and Castellanos are virtually the same player minus a little bit of on-base percentage.
50 points.
Savings. What?
50 points of on-base percentage. I mean, I don't know if that's worth $11, but I mean, I don't know. I Castellanos, I'll take that $11 extra, but I understand.
He's also young and developing. I mean,
sure,
he had a 330 on base percentage the year before that.
But going from the Reds lineup to the Phillies lineup in a hitter-friendly Citizens Bank ballpark, watch out for Castellanos.
We'll pretend like Cincinnati wasn't hitter-friendly. JT Realmuto for Stroman. Go ahead and take this one away, Eric.
This was kind of the one for one I did. If I'm not keeping Real Muto at $20, which is kind of a high price for a catcher, again, look at Real Muto's and look at Contreras' stats. Almost identical, saving $11, and I got another piece in my rotation. So Real Muto's and Contreras' stats weren't too different. And if we're talking about Castellanos and Jimenez saving dollars, I think that same argument could be made there. So Stroman fills out my rotation there, and obviously I paired it basically with the trade with you.
Yeah, I was bummed you made the trade because I was hoping to target Real Muto. Real Muto was the #1 catcher for the last 5 years until Salvador Perez hit 48 home runs. So I like Real Muto. He steals base. He does everything you want. His lineup is getting a lot better. He plays pretty much every day. Love Real Muto. I'm bummed.
What? Did he have less than 500 at bats last year?
What do you mean?
Did he?
What are you disputing?
Well, you said he played almost every day. I'd say 134 games is about the average of a catcher playing.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but again, look at Contreras and his numbers. I don't know if there's much of a difference, but I know 20 seconds per trade.
Now if there's DH, he might play even more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go
So
Cubs.
I don't love the deal. I don't love Stroman. We talked about that. Devers for Contreras and Simeon. Eric, what do you think about this? And what caused you to take the deal?
Basically the fact that, again, I'm not expecting Simeon to put up the same numbers last year, but if Simeon puts up even 80% of those numbers, that's what Devers put up last year.
Price take 45 home runs last year and stole 15 bases.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, even if Simeon puts up 80% of those numbers and I'm saving $8 in that move, I didn't mind it. I love Devers. I think I have an absolute bargain with him at $21. It took a lot to pry him from me, but honestly, again, in that lineup, in that Rangers lineup, I think Simeon, again, even if he does 35 home runs and 100 RBIs, I will take that at that price any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, Simeon's had an up and down career. I wanted to kind of trade him. I don't know. He's definitely not going to hit 45 home runs. He's going from a great lineup to an okay lineup. And he's also going from Dunedin, which was a great hitter's park, to Texas, who's not a great hitter's park. It's more of a pitcher's park than a hitter's park. So it's a park downgrade. It's a lineup downgrade. And it's a guy who's been an up and down career. I'll take the value in Devers. Devers is the second best third base value in the entire league. He's like a borderline first round pick in redraft. To get him for 21 in a position of need at third base, couldn't pass it up. I wasn't keeping Contreras anyway, so happy to throw him in there. Glad you accommodated that. And then the worst trade of the entire offseason, the biggest swindle, Austin Riley and Ryan Presley for JT Realmuto and Matt Chapman. I would not have kept Matt Chapman at his salary. JT Realmuto is a high paid player. I don't know if I keep him for 20, even though I like him. He's okay. I probably keep him for 20, just not my style. I don't like spending 20 on a catcher. Riley, the best value in the league at $1. Simple as that. Ryan Presley, closers, there's not many available. So they get a closer for $10.
And it's Houston. And if Houston wins 100 games, you're getting 40 saves from them. Like, come on. I don't know what Jay's thinking there.
He was the closer all of last year, though, and he only had 26 saves. And he was the closer all last year, though.
I know. But I mean, you got to expect more from that if you're going to win 95, 100 games.
Maybe. Okay. Oh, my God, we did it. All right. So what's next? Draft preview and bold predictions. I have a few bold predictions. I'm going to go with our first one. My first one is that the most expensive player is not on a roster right now. So that means Ronald Acuna right now is a $49 player. That means that I think that there's going to be a player in this draft that goes for more than $49. What do you think, Eric?
Mullins.
You think there's going to be a guy? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it's a smart decision because again, here's my thing. If you're Chad doing that, then you're literally going into the next season saying you have to keep him in that. I don't know. You
don't have to keep him. You can always just throw him back. But like a fringe team that wants to compete this year can overpay for a guy.
You can. I don't know if there's a player that goes for $50.
Okay.
Mullins stole 30 bases, 30 home runs. What do you have? 100 runs, 100 RBI. Like he was like an all-around monster. I don't see him going less than 45.
Could be.
Interesting.
Could be. My next bold. Oh, and the thing about it is like I feel like guys are just gonna like. And it kind of is going to tie into what this next bold prediction is, which is like, I feel like guys just like, they're going to have so much money to spend and they're going to look at the remaining guys there and going to be like, who the hell am I going to spend it on? I might as well spend it on Cedric Mullins. So I don't have to spend it on Carlos Santana, whoever else.
Here's my thing though. Like I know Bellinger was awful last year, but if you're telling me I can get Bellinger at $25 and someone spends 45 on Mullins, I'm loving Bellinger at $25. I'm sorry, but
all day.
But that's what I'm saying. So like, and that's why I think people are like getting too much shit for keeping players that like I would have kept Yelich at $39. I think he bounces back. What guys are you getting in the draft that have that talent? So even if if he would have kept Bellinger at 41, I wouldn't have been like, oh my God, how could you do that? Because next year, if you had to put money on it, who's having a better year, Mullins or Bellinger? I mean, if you want to go Mullins, I don't hate you for saying that. But I mean, at the same time, Bellinger's had 3 great seasons, 1 bad one. I'm paying less money for Bellinger. Sign me the fuck up.
Yeah, I really like Bellinger. And even at 42, everything in my head was like,
Bellinger's a better player. Yeah.
But I don't have the salary. I didn't have the salary cap for him. I couldn't keep him and have any money to spend in the draft is my issue.
So you can't hate yourself for that either. And that's what I'm saying. I don't hate people for sending guys back in because everyone's going to have a different draft strategy. But I mean, look at Bellinger's numbers throughout his career, 47 home runs and 120 RBIs. He's always pretty much had the OBP and the home runs and even the steals there. And you're telling me you're going to take that 1 year sample size of Cedric Mullins over 3 years of Bellinger? I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but I think Bellinger's kind of had an up and down career. I mean, he wasn't really great in 2018. He was okay. He had a great rookie year, and then he was phenomenal in 2019. Then he had a bad 2020 and an even worse 2021. So that's kind of like 1 blah year, 2 bad, and 2 good years.
The first 3 years of his career were amazing. There's not a bad year in those first 3 years.
Mr. Ceiling over here is fucking ripping down Cody Bellinger right now.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not going to hate you if you spend more money for Mullins and Bellinger. I get that. But the track record for Bellinger in that lineup, how are people not spending more on Bellinger than Mullins?
Bellinger makes a lot of sense for Chad because Chad's team needs a prayer. He can spend for him. And if Bellinger goes back to hitting 47 home runs and stealing 15 bases, then I feel like that would be something that Chad needs to kind of gamble on.
Right.
And if not, then it's kind of whatever. Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is like when you think about how the dynamics of a keeper league works, you have all of the what you perceive value of what you think somebody is. You look at a guy like Christian Yelich, and in any non-keeper league, you go, well, Christian Yelich maybe like a $30-$35 player. But Christian Yelich, when you have teams that are keeping Willie Peralta,
they're going to see those names. Yep.
For Austin Riley for one, for every guy that's kept at a great value, it drives that price up because there's more money you have to spend. For every time a player, Austin Riley is kept for one, it means you have that much more money to spend on Christian Yelich. And every time you keep another pitcher, Sandy Alcantara for 12 or whatever, it just keeps driving the amount of money that you could and should spend on it. So when you get to the end of it, you're like, I have 6 roster spots and I have $80 to spend. Why wouldn't I just spend 50 on one and then just 30 on 5 other spots? $50 or $30 on 5 spots is plenty of money, especially when you take into account the dollar players that are going to be available at the end. So, I mean, a guy like me who like, I have $80 to spend, I could spend $60 on Cedric Mullins if I wanted to. And that gives me $20 to spend on a closer, a utility, a first base, and whatever. That's fine.
And that's why is it inconceivable for Tatis to be $40-$45? I don't think it is. I don't.
Well, the thing about it is like the difference between Tatis and Mullins, though, if I want to spend $60 on Mullins, it's because I'm getting 30-30 production from Mullins. I can't get 30-30 production from Tatis.
Yeah, but if you
Next
can get
year, maybe, but
if he plays half a season and you get 15-15 production from
be...
Tatis with 50 RBIs, and then you're getting him at a better price than Mullins next year. I mean, do you not take that into effect? I don't know. I would.
Potentially. But I also think you don't necessarily, if I'm spending 50 on Mullins or like 50 on Mullins, I probably don't keep him next year. It's basically an all-in deal for this year.
And that's something we're going to talk about next year is the fact that after that third-year draft, when all these guys have to pretty much get replenished in the pool, it's going to make decisions next year even more interesting too.
And salaries going up is going to have some fringe guys that you wouldn't have kept. Or that you might have kept if they salary didn't go up that you can't keep anymore.
100%.
I still have a couple bold predictions left. My next bold prediction is that somebody is going to leave $40 on the table. I feel like what's going to happen is people are going to kind of get to the end and they're going to realize, oh, I have kind of all this money to spend and there's going to be nobody to spend it on. And then they're going to have like $50 to fill 2 spots and they're going to have like a catcher and somebody else. And then like the catcher is going to cost you 10 and they're going to have $40 left. And the guy that you choose is only going to cost you like 5 or 10.
Wait,
you're really just like leave that money on the table. I feel like somebody's going to fuck up and leave money on the table.
Mr. Carbone, weren't you the one that left like $50 on the table last year?
No, not me. I think I left like.
Because you ended with a bunch of $1 players and you're like, damn, I left a lot of money on that. I thought
I left like, I did think I left 20 or 30 because I ended up getting Voit for 3. And when I thought I was going to spend like 10 or 12 on them and I like some of the other, and like, Valdez I got for 1. Yeah.
So some idiot's going to leave 40 on the table this year, but last year 30 is fine.
30 is fine. 40.
Okay. 40 is the limit.
And that's idiot range. But exactly. That's kind of the point that I'm trying to make.
Hey, I got 40 to spend, so I'm good.
I do remember because I was like, I remember having like 20 or 30 left over and I was like, why did I not spend that money on Shane Bieber? I do remember having that conversation. Last bold prediction is someone will spend at least $10 on a guy that will be DFA'd by September.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, yeah, no doubt. I mean, you see, it's crazy when you look at the beginning of the year and the end of the year what guys are valued at, and that's what makes it fun. But yeah, that'll happen.
Leading candidate would probably be Adolis Garcia.
Yeah, could be for sure. No doubt about it.
Tyler O'Neill, Luis Urias, Jorge Soler, Josh Rojas, Colton Wong, maybe who knows who these guys are. And Lourdes Gurriel, maybe you spend $10 on some of these guys and they're DFA'd by the end. And then my last bold prediction, which is the boldest prediction of them all, Dave Long will overpay for a Pirates player. You heard it here first. I know it's tough to imagine, but I think that David may just slightly overpay to get a guy that he likes on his Pirates.
Yes, no doubt.
All right, that leaves our last segment, our power rankings, before we can wrap up this gargantuan, never-ending megalodon of a podcast.
We could probably fly. These are going to change so quickly, so we could probably fly. I'll just name mine and you name yours quick if you want. 14 Chad, 13, Eddie. The backside of mine didn't really change too much because I really felt like the last podcast we did, there's kind of a separation between those top 4 or 5 teams and the rest. I just genuinely think there's a decent gap. So 12 is Justin, 11 is Dave, 10 is Corey, 9 is Bryce, 8 is Tyler, Jay is 7. Phil, I had jumping up to 6 compared to him being 10 in my last rankings. Peter, I have at 5, myself at 4, Krim at 3, Kyle at 2, and Chris at 1.
So who are your biggest like risers and fallers from there?
Phil moved up from 10 to 6. Jay moved down from 5 to 7. Again, he moves down, still like his team, but again, those moves, not a fan of him. I think he hurt himself in this offseason. You also moved up from 7 to 2. So I thought that was interesting. But so there's been some rises, but really the back half, I really think those bottom 3-4 teams are the bottom 3-4 teams, no matter really what they did. So come draft time, post draft, we'll see if this changes.
Yeah. All right, I got Chad at 14, clear cut, no argument about it. Dave at 13, I said why I don't like his team, and he doesn't have a lot of money to spend to fix it. Justin at 12, so Justin and Dave swap places. Justin moving up to 12. Congrats, Justin. Eddie at 11, guys I like, but he's got to put it all together, and I just wish he'd make a few more moves. Peter at 10, my biggest faller, I think.
Oh, wow.
Peter down at 10. Corey moving up to 9, up for where he was at 11 before. Krim, I actually have you down as my biggest faller. I like the move that you made last night, which kind of moved you back up a little bit, but I think the rotation gaps just leaves you with a lot to be desired, and I don't think you're gonna be able to fill that rotation to have a serviceable rotation. So even though you had a lot of those guys, you know, with Sale getting hurt and the money you're spending on offense, I think that it's not really a top offense. There's plenty of offenses I like better, and the pitching staff is in shambles. So I got to put you down at 8. Tyler up at 7, rising a little bit up from 9. Bryce at 6. I had him at 8 before. Phil at 5, Jay at 4, Kyle, myself at 3, Eric, you at 2, and Chris at 1.
Tyler, reactions. Are we wrong? What are we wrong on?
I love that you guys are both modest and don't put yourself in the top 2. You guys are just a bunch of pussies for not doing that. If I'm being honest, I agree with Eric. I think those bottom 3 or 4 teams are just like, no matter what they draft, I don't think there's a lot they can do to move up into the top 6, maybe up into the 10s, 9s, 8s.
Right.
But I don't see them building a team big enough. I mean, with my team, I see myself right around that middle spot right now. I don't, unless some of my guys really turn it on, or I could really draft some sleepers, I'm probably not a top 3 team. I'd put myself somewhere in like the 5 or 6 range, but I thought the gap, you having Pete at 10 and Eric had Peter at
5.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I don't know what you see in Peter's team at 5, and I don't know what he sees at Peter's team at 10. So that was like my biggest, just listening to you guys rattle it off.
The thing about it is Peter's going to fill some of those spots in the auction, but Peter might go into the auction with like 7 players. Because if he doesn't keep Kimbrel and he decides to drop Suarez, and I think there's one other guy, McKenzie or somebody that he might drop, he's going to go into the draft with like 9 or 8, 9 or 10 players, which kind of has to bump him down a little bit. They'll have the money to spend, but his keepers just aren't the greatest.
Yeah, we'll see how it pans out. It'll be interesting, and we'll see how these change after the rosters are filled for sure.
Yeah, we'll certainly do a post-draft podcast. All right, that should just about do it. Any last words to any of our friends that are listening still after fucking 3 hours?
Yeah, for real. I'm super excited. Baseball's back. Last time we did this, obviously the lockout was still going on. So, dude, there's nothing better than opening day. It's literally my favorite day of the year. So I'm very, very excited to get rolling. This was super fun last year, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. So I'm excited for the draft to get rolling.
Yeah, I may or may not have had a dream that we were drafting last night. I didn't have it. Yeah, we were just like, we were in the auction. I was like playing out the auction, how it was going to go actually in my dream last night. So, which, I have a problem. It's an addiction. It's baseball, but hey, wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I fucking love it.
How wet were your sheets when you woke up from that one?
Very wet. I had a shower when I got up.
That's great.
All right, that'll just about do it for Tyler, for Eric. Thank you for joining me. That'll just about do it for this podcast. Thanks for still tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.